G'day guys, welcome back to the off-season, brought to you by Bloke in a Bar. Go out and grab yourself a case of beer this weekend. I've got my 5'8" with me today. I'll bring in another 5'8" soon, but I've got my 5'8" with me. Matty the Water Boy, what's doing, brother?
Guru, how are you? Just another normal week in rugby league, I guess.
Did
you see 360 last night?
No.
Oh my God.
Actually, was that where... What's his face was dressed as the
Lee
beer baron?
Yeah. So
unreal.
funny.
Top shelf shit.
Funny.
Top shelf shit. From my 5'8" to the 5'8", my original could be anything as well, as you've learnt over the last few weeks. The man that the greatest trackside dog of all time, Soward Grapes, was named after. A try-assister in State of Origin, a premiership winner. Jamie Soward, welcome in, mate.
Hey boys, how good? I've been looking forward to getting in and talking a bit of rugby league. I know how much you love it, and I'm a bit of a nerd, I guess.
You're one of us.
Yeah, I know you are. I am secretly. Well, not secretly. I don't really care, but yeah, it's rugby league, the game that keeps giving. I haven't seen 360 last night, but I'm looking forward to watching the shorts.
Yeah. Oh, that's all I watch. Yeah. That's all you need.
Yeah,
it's
TikTok's changed the way we view everything. So, but mate, I'm very excited to be here and obviously catch up with the Water Boy. Mate, I knew him when he was just a nuffy behind the camera.
He's still a nuffy behind the camera.
Well, yeah, but now he's got a name and he's got a profile and a hot missus. Yeah, life's really taken off for him since he was on my little podcast. So.
Life's good, CO. Life's good.
Have you got any Water Boy yarns for us?
Nah, he was... one thing I loved about Matty, and I'll probably wrap him up first, was I always felt comfortable around him. So when I was filming stuff, he always looked after me and was always prepped, which was really cool. But, yeah, no real... I think on the piss, he loves the piss. He's a good drinker, but... I think I'll just wait for the time that he's going to be really sloppy, that he forgets things. I think that's the one we're all waiting for.
It's coming. Every day it's getting closer. No, he's very good at what he does, the Water Boy. Very, very good. Underrated. Under this roof, very underrated to the outside world.
Is he like, who in a team is he? Like what position? Is he like your old Dallas Johnson?
Yeah, I think he's the lock forward that just holds it all together. He's the guy that when he's there, it's all good and well. When he's not there, you go, fuck, where's Matty?
Yeah.
When he's not there, you go, shit.
Shit, we've missed 50 tackles.
He is so important. He's like the Tohu Harris.
Yeah.
When he's not there, you go, fuck, what's doing?
Oh, that's a fair
You like that or what?
I love that. You keep going if you want.
I think that'll do us for today.
Yeah, that's enough.
Now, mate, you're head coach of the Dragons NRLW. How are you finding that? Enjoying it?
Yeah, I love it. It's I didn't think I'd get into coaching this young, to be honest. I wanted to have a few life experiences, and having kids is certainly one of those. But, yeah, Ben and Hook gave me the opportunity to come back to the club, and it's a club I'm passionate about. So I think when you win a premiership at a club and you get a chance to go back there and help them try and get back to where we need to on the men's side, but definitely on the women's side, it's been a learning experience. The last 6 months has been shit crazy. It's been sliding in DMs to try and sign players. It's been, FaceTiming, Zoom meetings, all that kind of stuff. And but I love it. I love the fact that we get to see, young females come into our game. The look on their faces, they're so grateful, and they're learning. They're always taking notes, and I think, Guru, there's a lot of girls coming through that love the game. Yeah, not just because they're good at it, but absolutely love the game like we do.
I think it's one thing that stood out for me, mate. Like you obviously had to go out and recruit a lot of girls into this year, and I loved that every single one of them, there was an Instagram video of you, like really enjoying that moment. I think a lot of other clubs there would be, like the head coach wouldn't be in all those videos, wouldn't be going all those effort. And I haven't mentioned this to you, but I spoke to a few of your girls. I won't say who because I won't embarrass them, but they just said the relationship that you've built with all of them has been second to none. They know you genuinely care, which matters. Yeah,
and that was... I knew that every other club was probably just going to put up a sticker of the new jersey and their face of the new players. And, one thing we wanted to do
Which, by the way, you can get away with.
Yeah,
you could have got away with that.
Easily.
100%. Yeah.
But I think, like, my coaching style and my philosophy around... I'm intense and I'm emotional. I know a lot about footy. I still learn a lot about footy. I watch every game, but I care. And one thing that I'll never ever be accused of in my coaching career is not caring. And sometimes I care too much, and it spills over, and it's like I've got Tourette's, right? But I care. So when we decided to do that, I rang CK and I just said, listen, mate, we're going to try something different with our signings. And we went around Sydney. I think we signed 9 the first day. The only one we couldn't get was Ferris Sambo, who was a Canadian. She was over in Canada. So she's a Canadian development player. But I even went to New Zealand to get Tyler Nathan Wong. And, going over there and, just showing that. And you can see they care. This is the biggest moment of their life. I would have loved someone to be with me when I signed my first grade contract at the Roosters. Showing me because usually it's all done in secret and no one talks about it and all that kind of stuff. I was like, you know what, let's get out there, let's get the girls their shine, and they loved it, so it was good.
I love that, mate. How good.
Yeah, it was good.
And I mean, mate, so far you've done pretty well.
Yeah, and this year was a unique experience, Guru. It was like, okay, everyone's a free agent.
Yep.
Can you imagine the whole 17 NRL team starting again because the Dolphins come in?
Matty, imagine the content.
Can you?
Thanks for coming.
You'd never leave here. You'd just have a stream.
We don't leave here anyway, but that'd be
it'd be 24/7 stream.
Yeah.
It'd be like Fox News, CNN, just all that stuff. But it was really hard. But I look at the squad now, and I couldn't be prouder and happier with the squad we got. We got 24 girls that want to be there. Headlined by, I think, could be the greatest halves pairing that we see in NRLW in Racine McGregor and also Tyler Nathan Wong. You throw in there, some unknown gems, or could be anything, as you call them.
I was about to say, who are they? They could be anything.
Yeah, well, Tegan Berry going to fullback, I think, is a really exciting move for her. You look at some of the other girls, Keely Brown getting her first full season at centre. I think, last year we sort of had some centres and we moved her around and stuff like that, but she's gone away and worked really, really hard. There's a couple of other girls there. I reckon there's probably the next batch coming through as well. We had 5 Australian schoolgirls, which is club record. Yeah, so Jack Bostock, everyone will know Jack Bostock. I reckon I've got the better Bostock in Indy Bostock coming through.
Cop that, Jack.
Yeah, she's in development for 2 years. She's 16, amazing athlete. Casey Ray is the player of the tournament. She's a halfback. So we've got girls coming through now. And plus, to think a girl's played one season, like Tara McGrath-West has played 5 games, and we class that as her being, this is her second year. If a male had played 5 games and then the next year they're still classed as a rookie, right? So, we've got a lot of girls that are still learning, but I think probably the 2 that could be anything is Ella Costa.
Yep.
Union girl, Illawarra Steelers junior, played Waratahs already, opens Waratahs at 16.
Wow.
Turned 18 on last Friday, so she gets a chance.
What position?
She's a lock middle.
Yep.
And the other one is Alexis Tuanier. She's a special. She is out of that mould of a Jessie Bromwich with a touch of Tohu Harris ball playing involved, and she's 18, mate. And she's got 2 sisters that are guns as well, so the 2 in the A's, that family, and Ella Costa, I think, are the really mark them down.
And what does it look like for you as far as the head coach in the future? How long you signed up for?
Yeah, I'm talking to the club now, so we're sitting down. It's a drawn-out process when you don't have a manager. You're trying to do it yourself, but also keep an eye on the prize with coaching, and that's the main goal. I've sort of focused on that, and Ben and Ryan, I'm pretty sure we'll get it done pretty soon, and I'm looking to be there long term. I don't want to go anywhere. I think the important thing for me is so many times in our game we see coaches take roles that it's a stepping stone. Yeah, this isn't a stepping stone for me. I want to dominate the women's game, and I've been outwardly proud in saying that I want to stay in the women's game for 5, 10, 15 years and dominate. And, no one can win every year, but I feel like we've got the stuff in place to be able to be competitive.
We had a coffee this morning and I asked you how the Dragons are going. I was talking about the men's. You spoke for 25 minutes about the women's. I mean, passion, second to none. So Dragons, get it done, get it sorted. Mate, we got you in today to talk about your kicking game. Now, whether you were sitting here or not, I think Sowy's got, I was saying to Matty before, he said to me, top 5 kicking games ever. And I said to Matty, that could be unders. I think your kicking game, second to none. I think people... It's potentially forgotten when you look back at your era because you had the Thurstons and the Smiths and these sort of guys, just how dominant your kicking game was. And if people don't remember, go back and watch that 2010 season. Your halfback that year, Ben Hornby, great player. I'm not convinced he's a halfback, to be perfectly honest with you. Very good footballer, but you just took control of the kicking game, and seemingly all the game plan was built around your kicking game. And I found that 2010 season, coming off the back of 09, just to be... I know people look back at the Dragons and go, oh, it's a boring brand of footy. And for someone that looks at rugby league like chess, I fucking loved it. I thought it was unreal, mate. And I think your kicking game was so important to that team.
Yeah, and it was... it's funny because I probably never realised how important a kicking game was until Wayne came to the club and gave me that responsibility and set up. And that was part of my part for the team, was icing those moments and putting us in position. And, I feel like, I know we'll talk about later, but it was more reward for a better kicking game back then, whereas now it's sort of stock standard. You go into a corner and you're dead corner and that's what you get. But, finding the ground, that going down to Melbourne and trying to beat Billy Slater one-on-one, and coming up with different tactics. But, my part was a small part on the construction line, but I felt like it was a part that I really took pride in. I don't know, like you remember, but like Rugby League Week used to have a stat about, or Big League, I think it was, most kicks to open field. And I prided myself on that one because I knew that gave us time to get our kick chase down there. I knew that gave us time to be able to win that field position. And, so many times it was not for that set. And you're right, like it was probably the best era of coming through with halves and all that kind of stuff. But, Benny knew that he could get me in position and then he trusted me. That was the big thing. He trusted me to come up with the final decision. But, I think about kicking games in that era, and Smith out of dummy half, but like Kamali, the short side from 40 out through the line to try and get a repeat set, and then JT took it over, and then I was like, okay. And it became not like one-upmanship, but almost like, could I do that in a game? Yeah, I could do it in a game. Holy shit, I'm actually not too bad at it. Yeah. We can do it whenever I want, sort of thing. And then, towards the back end, the crossfield kick, I think, probably didn't take off as much because everyone realised how hard it was to do. But a bit like the Joey Banana, no one ever mastered that. So I think with my kicking, I love the tactical side. And now as a coach, at times I reckon I've struggled to educate that fully.
Yep.
The 5 principles of who, what, when, why, how, Who am I kicking the ball to? When am I going to kick it? Why am I kicking it? How, as in what type of kick am I going to do? And what does the team need? All that kind of stuff goes into every single kick. When I was playing, now it's more like, well, let's just get it down the other end and not force an error and try and force an error. So, it was a pretty cool time to play, to be honest. Like looking back now and seeing the game now, and people go, oh man, you'd love to play now. They can't touch the kickers. And I go, you know what? I actually like the era I played in because I played, at when I thought rugby league was at its very best.
You mentioned there the stat of finding the turf. And I think that probably back when you were playing, I think we probably underappreciated how important that was. I think that the more, the game on TV improves and the conversations around the game and the stats improve, we're probably starting to understand more and more. Like, mate, I hadn't even heard the term post-contact meter when you were playing.
Nah.
Now it's everywhere.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And I think that stat, it's interesting that was reported on back then, but it doesn't seem to be now. And I think it is such an important part of the game that, it might only win you an extra second and a half.
Max.
But that can be 40 metres.
Yeah, that's right.
Like that can turn a game.
Well, if you said to someone, run as fast as you can in 1.5 seconds, right? You multiply that across the line and it gives you a chance to set your line. So, up with the other most useful stats or most useless stats, most decoys. I love that one. Who cares?
Yeah.
James Fisher-Harris had like 300 decoys. It's like, no shit. They're playing out the back. He's doing
especially in the modern game, decoys.
In the modern game, yeah. So, the point of finding the open space was to really, because back then you could do video and you go, right, Slater-Lock's coming out of this corner. We need to pin him here. This winger doesn't drop back to the last. So the reward not only now is, like, no one kicks early anymore.
Unless you're Queensland.
Yeah, unless you're Queensland.
And you get rugby league, yeah.
And, hello, they just won 2-1, right? So, the reward like now is like all percentages. So, a player will come up to me and go, I say, how'd you play on the weekend? Yeah, I had 100 metres and 50 post-contact metres. I go, what? So you fought hard in a tackle? That's what that means to me.
Yep.
So someone came in to tackle you and you fought harder in the tackle, right? That's the stat. I don't care. And I'm not a stats person. Obviously I've got to look at the stats, but I'm not like you made the blah, 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 blah. Okay, firstly, did we win? All right, that's what I'm judged off. The W is what I'm in the game for, right? Then off the back of that, okay, did you do your job as part of our game plan? All right? Yes. Okay, great. The rest of the stats, there's a clip going around on the internet of Steph Curry having a bad night where Steve Kerr comes up to him and Steph's kicking stones. And it's like, see the box score? When you dig deeper into the box score of like the whole game, your influence and what you do and how you help the team isn't always necessarily going to reflect in great stats. But if you're doing your stuff for the team, and I think that's what made our Dragons team so good through that era was, you speak about Ben Hornby not being a halfback. Well, I would think it's like one of the better transitions, other than Lockyer, to going into that position and steering a team around. Now, he didn't do it to be like Andrew Johns. He did it because the team needed him to play there. We had Darius Boyd, who I think underrated or undervalued throughout his career, what he did at fullback. And you build that all together. So the box score doesn't always reflect how the player plays. And that's where post-contact meters shit me because I just don't understand it. And then to transfer that back to your kicking is like, okay, so finding the ground and pinning them into a corner, and you look at those old games, it's chess.
Yeah.
Moving them in, okay. The fullback's back there, well, they got me this side. Now we just protect 40-20s and the dead corner, which is boring to me. I couldn't be more bored with our kicking game. We don't kick for wingers anymore. I'm doing preview, but for back five, and it's like when someone does a crossfield kick, you go, oh, shit, this is cool. The old Brett Morris, all that kind of stuff, but we just don't see it anymore. So it's become statistical based, but the main stat is that you win, right?
I got a bone to pick with you on kicking the wingers. I think that's partly your fault.
Yeah?
Making us change the fucking rules.
Agree.
It shits me to no end that 7 tackles sad. I think the rule should change that if you have an attacking kick that goes dead from in the red zone, the 20-metre line, I don't think it should be a 7 tackle set. I think now kickers don't. Well, there's a couple of kickers in the NRL that do, probably Adam Reynolds and Nath, Moses maybe, but I don't think the guys have the kicking ability that you guys used to have to be able to gamble on giving away that 7 tackle set.
Yeah, and I've hated it for years. I came up, I think it was when I retired, like from outside the 30, you should be able to control your kick.
Yeah.
So, but if you want to make it the 20, inside the 20, you shouldn't be punished for that. We're taking out the young, small Jamie Sowards that played the game that wanted to like try something new. They don't try anything new now. And as a coach, it's coached out of us. I think back to 2015, I think it was we played Bulldogs, 2016. We played Bulldogs out at Penrith, and it was like the last couple of minutes of the game. We had a set down there, and I roll it in the in goal, and it rolls dead, right? Bulldogs go up, Mbai scores. I think the young fella, Holland, kicks a goal to win the game.
Holland, yep.
In his debut, Hook comes off and says, like, what'd you kick it for? You should have just run it in the corner. I'm like, well, the game's made up of 50-50 plays. Someone's got to have the nuts to be able to execute. And I'm thinking, I've played long enough to be able to roll one in the in goal. It's taken the wrong bounce. They get 7 tackles, right? Lose the game. He said, but you run it to the corner, they have to go 95 metres. As a coach, now you're looking going, okay, well, but at the time, I'd like to think I can pull up a grubber. So, and if I take that out of someone, which I probably did last year to a certain extent, coaching, probably coached the footy out of them a little bit because I was too worried about the outcome of the next set because I was thinking too far ahead. But, we lost the game and I was just like, well, now I don't do that kick. Like the next week you don't do that kick or you don't put an early chip in and all that kind of stuff. So everyone plays the same. Everyone's got the same players. Everyone calls the same shit. But you got to have those 50-50 plays where it's like an early kick or, play for. I think back to 2018, Cleary in Sydney kicked early and Josh Adokar got a repeat set. Man, that gave me, I was pumped. And I was like, okay. And I love Nath, and I think Nath's one of the best halfbacks. But I think at times, even watching him and Moses and like the elite halfbacks, like Cherry Evans old school. He knows he can wrestle momentum back. Adam Reynolds is old school. They know they can wrestle momentum back with an early kick. Not necessarily to gain ground, but just to get everyone going back behind the ball.
Yeah, which is, part of the reason why I wanted Adam Reynolds' pick for game 2.
I said Reynolds and Walker. Everyone laughed at me.
Bit like that. Now, I said to you before that I sort of blame you for this 7 tackle set stuff. And, of course, that comes off the back of you guys, which was genius at the time. Whenever fullbacks were simply too good, you just kick the ball dead. And I still, to this day, when there's a 7 tackle set, like in Golden Point, for example, I still go, fucking Soward.
Yeah.
I fucking hate this shit. But it was genius at the time. You took some of the best players in the game out of the game. And it's so simple. I don't know why more teams didn't think of it.
Yeah, well, you think back to when Slater was cooking in 08, 09, and you'd see teams go down to Melbourne and they'd do the Ricky Stewart grubber into touch.
Yep.
Why sacrifice 50 metres? Let's just give it to, like, I had a fair-sized kick. Let's just kick it dead and get our line set. The boys, forwards loved it because they could just trot down and get in position. Yeah. I could get back to my edge, so we weren't in chaos getting our defensive line set. And then I remember obviously we choked it up in 09, but the first game at Parramatta Stadium, 2010, mate, I put one dead on the full, I would say, maybe 15 rows back.
I almost went in the car park.
Yeah. And blatantly, arrogantly just trotted up and went, all right, we're going to... And every coach looks for an advantage, right?
Yeah, mate, you set the rules, I'll play to them.
Yeah, that's right. So we just went, okay, that's fine. We know who we are. We've got our identity. We're sweet. And we were on a mission that year, so I was like, get our line set.
Yeah.
The other thing is, why do we penalise field goals for 7 tackles? Do you know how hard it is to kick a field goal?
Does it sound familiar or what?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know how hard it is to kick a field goal? I challenge anyone, go out and kick a field goal from 10 metres out. 20, 30, work your way back, right? Now run around for 80 minutes. All right, now get some pressure on you. Like, do you know how hard a skill that is? And we bag, we need golden try. And I'm like, do you know how hard it is to kick a field goal? Like, hello. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, would you change to golden try, or are you happy with golden point?
No, golden point.
You don't think it opens up just a basket case of grey areas that we can't officiate?
Well, we're seeing that at the moment with Parramatta on the weekend.
Yeah.
But I look to the attacking side and the skill, and for me, that was, if I get this wrong, we lose. And I needed that moment. You know, I think back to the Tigers 2010, and Benji kicks out in the full. That whole set, I don't touch the ball. I'm just getting ready for play. You know, we sometimes underestimate or undervalue the skill and understanding it takes to execute in that moment. Whereas golden try, you throw it around. Are we then looking for more reasons to get penalties to get the other team up the end of the field? Yeah, so are we not entertained by Cleary and Moses kicking it from 40? Like that kick that Nathan Cleary kicks from 40 out to tie the game. Yeah. If that doesn't give you blood in it, you don't love rugby league.
There's movement. Now, mate, a few things that you tiptoed around there, and this is why I always loved you as a footballer, that you were more than happy when the game was on the line. You wanted the ball. You were all chips in on everything. Didn't always pay off for you. Many times it didn't. But my favourite trade that you had, that a lot of great players have, Reece Walsh is one at the moment that I love watching. You can make 9 mistakes, and you're going, sweet, I want to make the 10th. Give me the ball. I want it now. And the first time I ever saw you play was Jersey Flegg back in 04, 03.
04, yeah.
And you kicked the winning field goal in that game. Take me back to that moment and your mindset at that age, because you already look like, to me, composed and just wanting to own every moment at such a young age.
Yeah, I think that year I'd been resold from Canberra. They kept Michael Dobson and Todd Carney, and Sammy Ayub got me up to Sydney. I moved up to Sydney for pretty much like a training trial, really, back then, 10 grand. Yeah, I was working at Foot Locker. And Flano, yeah, he just instilled this toughness within me of like, okay, I know what you can do, and I'm going to put you in those positions, but you've got to be able to execute. And we didn't lose a game that year. We won. Sharks had us beaten twice. Won at Shark Park 8-0 with, 8 minutes to go. We scored 2 tries, one length of the field try that's, if you ever get footage of it, Scotty Porter goes short side, kicks it. Our winger, I'm on the right-hand side of the field. Our winger goes to kick it dead, kicks it, back to me on side. I step, run, link up with someone else. We score. It's 8-6. A minute later, Scotty Porter kicks it to me. I run 70. We score. Game over. And then it was like in the grand final, I remember Ricky Stewart coming down and we had all 3 grades in. It was a really successful time for the Roosters. And Stick's like, man, I can just smell heartbreak here. He was trying to fire us up a little bit. And I was that confident. I was like, man, because I'd watched Joe Williams kick the winning field goal 2 years earlier. And Joe's like a big brother to me. And I just remember getting it out of that game and they come out hard and they were leading 12, I think it was 12-0. They scored after half time. And, Flano just said, we just got to just stick to what we do. And that was something that I probably lost when I got into first grade and regathered with Wayne was, we're really, you're here because you're really good at it. You just need to be able to execute and want that moment. And then we actually went ahead 13-12. They kicked the field goal. But in Golden Point, you just become unconscious, mate. This is the moment. Every kid goes, male, female, goes to sleep going, I want to kick the winning goal. And you become unconscious in that moment. And like the pass, I think it was from Michael Burns, was absolutely awful. Like behind me, and I just turned around and thought, let's kick it. And in the space of that, it was over, So I think in those big moments throughout my career, looking back, I was probably that prepared and I'll tell you a story about the Tigers. Like that semi-final, I usually have maybe half dozen shots of field goal in my pre-game. And I try to make 3 in a row. That's my thing, right? 80,000, West Tigers v Dragons. Both teams hate each other. 05. It's just the smell of heartbreak, chokers, all that shit, right? I went out there. It was like a beehive, and I had 1 shot at field goal, and I nailed it. And I've never kicked one better, right? And I said to my stepdad after the game, he goes, why'd you only kick 1? I said, mate, he goes, I saw you kick that, and I thought, he's on. Like, not that he's on like he's going to play well. If he got that moment, he'd ice it. And then that field goal, Feensy, great pass. I don't think I've ever hit one better.
It was a cracker. It was never missing.
It was, and people go, why didn't you celebrate? I'm like, next job, 5 minutes to go. And we almost nearly lost it at the death. But that you prepare yourself in those moments, and I'm not a Nostradamus and all that shit, but I'd practice that moment so many times at training that the boys knew that, now we go, who's going to kick it? Oh, this, you listen to commentators. Well, this one's kicked this one, and 6 field goal. Like, nah. If the Dragons were in a tight game, you knew I was getting the ball. It just had to make sure I was in the right position, which is why I kicked so many field goals.
I also find that interesting. Like, obviously, Wayne Bennett was your coach then. I look at the Dolphins now. Whenever they're in those moments, it's Isako and it's no one fucking else.
No. And there's
no questions about it. There's nothing. The halves get the fuck out of the way. No. That's Isako.
Well, Wayne was so good at, when he first came to the club, he just come up to me and he goes, I always want to take the 2. I always want to go to 6 or 8. That was it. He goes, and if it's a field goal, if it's tight, you're kicking it. And I was like, okay.
Your 2010 team is the only team ever that there is never a look to the sideline to go like that. You never even had to consider it. You just 1 to 17 all new. That's what we're doing, and we do it. We do not move away from that.
Well, that was our plan A.
It's just death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, that was our plan A, and everyone. I think back to that first semi-final against Manly at Cogra, and it's tight and tense, and we scored, and then it's like to 8-0, and we just knew. We knew we didn't concede a point in any game in that finals in the second half because we knew what our defence was, and we knew we could beat you 1-0, and that is a dangerous, dangerous thing. Like we're seeing it with Penrith now, and the rules change, so you can't really look at it. But I think our average was like 11.4 points per game.
Wow! Across
the whole 27 or 28 games, which is crazy, right?
Oh, mate,
maybe it was a little bit more, but when you think about that now, it's like the average now. I think when you win, maybe I think Penrith are like 21, maybe in there or 16.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, we were confident. We just
mate, you were so confident. You could see it in everything you did.
Yeah.
I found it interesting. I went and had a look back at your team list from that grand final that day in the Flanagan. For a team that was almost untouchable, Sammy Perrott, yourself, a couple of other guys sprinkled in, Heath Lestrange, Michael Lett, but you would have thought there would have probably been more guys to come from that side.
Yeah, and Brett Morris always used to tease me because they won it, I think, in 05 or 06.
I'll get to that. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Yeah, and we didn't have a lot of guys going to first grade. It was really tough back then. You had to, and in a way I sort of slid through the cracks because the Roosters went through a transition then, Guru. It was 3 grand finals in a row. Freddie's retiring. Okay, well, we've got this gun number 6 who's 20 years old. Can he come in and fill the void? And, oh, no, we need Brett Furman. There's other guys there. Wingy played 6 for a little bit. I think Amos Roberts played 6 for a little bit. So, and then Joshy Lewis, had a crack. Mitchell Orbison ended up having a crack. I never really cemented it. And I came off the bench and flooded around for a little bit. But that was when I used this analogy the other day. Like, to get into the Australian Test team right now, the cricket team, you used to have to make 1,000 runs in a season. Now, if you get 100, they fly you over. Back when I played, you had to play 50, 60 games reserve grade to one. And it's really hard to play reserve grade because you've got a selfish mentality of, I want to get into first grade.
Yep.
You're preparing at a ground that's got no sheds, no fans, no entertainment, no energy. So you got to create that. You're playing with other guys that probably are part-time and working. And your one goal is to get back into first grade. So you got to try and do your job with guys that are part-timers, really. So back then, I played reserve grade with Justin Hodges at Central Coast when he got dropped in front of maybe 15,000, and it was the most exciting thing in my life because I was just like, Hodjo? Justin Hodges? And he used to pace me all the time. Yeah. But I was just like, okay, this is what first grade would feel like, and I tried to put myself in that situation. So there wasn't a lot of guys that kicked on. I mean, Stranger had a great career. Sammy Perrott had a great career. But other than that, it was hard to get into first grade because you had to toil and be good at reserve grade first so they could trust you.
It was interesting.
Sorry, Guru. 2010, the Dragons conceded 11.8 points per game. In the top 8, no one else was below 20.
Wow.
And if you can compare it to the Penrith from the last 3 years, Penrith haven't never been that low.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Someone quizzed me about that. And I got my back up a little bit because it doesn't take me much.
I was going to say.
It doesn't take me much. The boots are always on.
Yeah.
Sometimes the laces are undone, I can tie the laces up really quickly.
Really quick,
and I was like, mate, please, we knew. You had to score. If you had to score twice to beat us, they had to score twice and convert the goal twice to beat us. But yeah, that's crazy, 11.8.
Now, I had to look back, obviously, at that team you won the comp with, and I thought it was interesting. The Premier League Grand Final was before that. Dragons played in that. The centre that was running around for that Dragons team, Bo Scott, obviously went on to be very important in your career. Tell me, as a ball player and as a kicker as well, why was he so important to you?
Yeah, Bo sacrificed his career, well, not career, but his position to protect me. That everyone talks about the GI bumping me off.
You know what? It was only mentioned 300 times in the question box.
And 100,000 views on YouTube, so I'm forever on YouTube, which is great for my kids. But so my defence in that is watch 5 minutes after we throw him in a touch, and this is a message for kids. What happens in the first 5 minutes of the game doesn't dictate the rest because someone has a very big kick to send us into golden point at the end of the game from not an easy angle with time pretty much expired. So, Wayne came up to me after this game and he said, what happened on the GI thing? I said, oh, mate, he's drifting across. I felt like when someone needed to get up and I just got my angles wrong. He goes, yeah, sweet. He goes, I was so proud of you for that kick. He goes, that was a huge kick. I was like, yeah, but what? What? I was that excited. But the thing with Bo, we moved him to centre the next week and then I ended up defending at 2 in. But Bo never, ever made me feel bad for missing a tackle. He said, I'm never ever going to get into you, or he might fire something at you back when you could. Now you can't. But he would say, just get your body in front. That's all I ask is get your body in front. I'll protect you. And to this day, he's our defensive consultant for NRLW. And when he comes and stands next to me, I feel like he's the coach and I'm talking to him. And you think back to that, right? Like the left-hand side dominated attack-wise, but he was playing out of position. Yeah, we had to get in the ball. He sacrificed because he wanted to be team first, and Wayne had asked him to do that job. So having someone like him protect me, and no one ever messed with me on that side after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when Gaz came in, it was like, well, Gaz is pretty big stature in the game, so I was protected both sides, which was great.
Mate, the year after, the Dragons in 2005, I think they beat Parramatta in that same game the next year. I had to look through that side, and I mentioned there wasn't too many guys that came from your team to first grade. Mate, their team, Brett Morris and Josh Morris, for starters. On the extended bench was Jason Nightingale.
Yeah.
So a heap of guys that actually went on to win that comp for you. And a guy you already mentioned, which I'm glad you did, Josh Lewis was there 5'8". Now, you two ended up at the Roosters together. And as I said, when I first saw you, the first thing that caught my attention was your kicking game. Fuck, the ball flew off his foot. I'm not sure where Josh Lewis ended up, but good God. I remember watching him when he was young. And it's one of the best strikes I think I've ever seen in general play.
Yeah, he could kick the ball. He could kick the ball a long way. I think he played a couple of games for Roosters and then went up to the Titans, maybe.
I think so, yeah.
But Louis. I don't know if me and Louis, we certainly liked hanging out together because we both like a beer and a bet, and back then when you could go out to Sapphire in the city, it was it was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah, we sort of had a little bit of notoriety and we could go out with the Roosters boys, but I think we probably didn't enjoy playing together because we both were sort of similar in terms.
It was sort of when you were both coming through at the same time. It was one of those classics. Only one of these two can make it.
Yeah, but I think in the 06 grand final Premier League, we needed to kick a field goal, and he tried one from 55 out, and I was just like, mate, kick to a corner. Yeah, just give it to me, and they passed him, and we kick it, and we end up losing. But he had a big right foot step. Yeah, he could kick the ball a mile. But I don't know. Well, we like each other and we'd still catch up. And there's no angst there, but I just don't know if our styles suited each other is probably the best way of saying it.
I always remember when watching him at the SFS one day, there was no one there. It was almost an empty stadium. And I remember hearing him hit a ball, and he kicked it almost 70 metres on the full. And I remember hearing the noise off his foot and thinking, fuck, that sounded like the perfect cover drive.
Yeah.
Like it just whistled off his foot.
And he wasn't big either. We were both very small, and back then, I wouldn't say you didn't do a lot of kick practice, but it wasn't like it is now where you have dedicated sessions for kicking and catching.
On that note, tell me back to the sort of start of your career, even your childhood. I know I've heard you talk a number of times about how your stepdad was very influential as far as your game and practicing. I believe he was the one that even convinced you to goal kick, essentially, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. My dad was like the old Adam Docker, Nigel Plum, lock, fight anything that moves. When I came to the Roosters, Sticky said, I hope, if you're anything like you, because Sticky ball boyed for my dad. Yeah. He said, I hope if you're anything like your dad, you'll be all right. And I thought, oh, shit. I'm a pretty little halfback.
I can kick the ball.
Yeah, I can kick the footy. I wear a headgear. Did Dad wear a headgear? Nah, sweet. But no, I remember I had some great junior coaches, Harry Power and Steve McDonald. Steve McDonald actually played country out in the bush. And they were really hard on me, but I remember coming home one day and things hadn't worked for me. I didn't play. I finished school year 10, so I didn't play CHS. I was playing touch. I was knock around. I was getting me 4 woodies for $10 and going to parties on the weekend. Like nothing. I wanted it, but it just wasn't happening. And then when I got the trial for Canberra, I drove all the way, and I think I only played 8 minutes. And I came home and I just didn't think it was going to happen. But when I was going to Canberra and then before I come to Sydney, my stepdad sat me down and he said, listen, mate, you need to just enjoy it but love it at the same time, because you want it so bad that it's hurting you at the moment. You want it. I wanted it. I was going to the gym at 14. 15, and my mates are laughing at me and I just wanted to play rugby league. You go to Centrelink and you're like, what do you want to do? I want to play footy. That's all I wanted to do. And then when I come to Sydney, Huey just said, you need the goal kick. You need the goal kick. And that was when he moved to Sydney with me. Not a lot of people know this, but he sacrificed himself. He got a transfer to Sydney to live with me in Sydney that first year for the Roosters. And he'd take me out the back kicking. We had a post out the back of Sylvania Waters there, and it was just me and him, and Mum had come up on the weekends with my sister. But he'd take me out the back, and he stood there the first time, I'll never forget it. And this actually helped me in 2011 when I kicked to go into Golden Point against the Broncos. But the first time out the back, he stood behind with a whistle, and I didn't know. And I'm from in front. And he's like, come on, mate, kick. And some days you just don't want to kick, right? So I'm out the back, and I kick, and I sprayed because he blew the whistle just as I was about to hit it. And I sprayed it, and he starts bursting out laughing. He's got this horrendous laugh like I do. And I said, what are you doing? Like, I blew up, and he goes, what, so you can't kick with a whistle blowing like that? And then, he found a way of always making it, because he's a massive Larry Bird basketball Celtics, which is where I get my fandom from. And he always related it back, everything's, you got to have the same stroke from in front at the free throw line as you do at the 3-point line. So that stuff and the whistle and all that stuff, like, he just had a way of simplifying that for me on the footy side of it. And then on the other side, you throw in Mum with the support and everything like that. Like, Mum was great in allowing him to do that, because Huey'd never played. He was cricket and basketball, but he just had a way of getting to me and settling me down and then put me on that thing. And his last bit of advice was, mate, if there's two halfbacks and you can goal kick, they're going to take you.
It's a good point, isn't it?
And I tell that to kids all the time. Do you goal kick? Nah, start. Why? Because, like, you're always going to go and look for goal kickers, because goal kicking is the worst job in the world. Because if you miss, why'd you miss? If you get it, we're supposed to get it.
Yeah, you're a goal kicker.
Yeah, you're a goal kicker. You're supposed to get it. You know what I mean? And we saw that this year with Zach. So it was great advice. If you're a halfback and you're a goal kicker versus a halfback that can't, they're always going to take you.
And speaking of your family, very briefly there, I've told this story before that you were my original Could Be Anything, right?
Now, when you said that, did you write it down in 04, 05? Like,
no, mate, I was in year 5 and year 6, but I'd go and watch your New South Wales Cup games every week.
Imagine Guru at
and
school.
I would stand there and watch this halfback.
Imagine Guru at school talking to little Johnny going, he could be anything. Like that. And Johnny's going, well, I just want me Lamington. And like, I'm looking at nudie mags.
So you were playing in that team, and when you're in the Newtown side, and as a kid, I was a huge Brad Fittler guy. And as I've always said, I've never gone for a team. I've always gone for players, right? So when Freddie retired, I sort of went, fuck, what do I do now?
Yeah. And
you came in and I went, fuck it, I'm going to stick with him. He was the one I went for at Newtown. So I watched you come through. You went to the Dragons, cheered you on going there and everything. But I remember I was at the first ever Indigenous All-Stars game, I believe it was. And I was sitting in the corner where Wendell scored.
Yeah.
He did got the didgeridoo out, fantastic night and everything. And I was sitting there, and I think that was you were playing. Was it the first one? Did you play in the first?
The first one was actually 08. We played the Maldives before the World Cup.
Nah, so it wasn't that way. It was the first one on the Gold Coast.
Yes.
Anyway,
All-Stars one.
You scored a long-range try, didn't you, that night?
Left centre I played.
Left centre,
third.
Yeah. You scored, and I remember sitting there, and I was a huge fan of you, obviously. That's pretty much why we went to the game. And I was sitting there, and every time you got the ball, I'd sort of go, go. And the lady in front of me was carrying on even more than me, and I was sitting there going, fuck, what's her deal? Like, as if she knows who he is better than me. You know who it was?
Probably my mum.
It was your mum and sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got about halfway through the game and realised, because I think they thought I might have been a fucking stalker or something.
Nah. So mum, she went through a lot in getting me to where I went to, and she always loved supporting the game, and she doesn't pull any punches. She told me the truth, and we probably very similar in that stuff, but her and my grandparents were my rocks. Grandma and Pop would travel to every game and talk to whoever you wanted to about their grandson, and I'm telling you, like, 215 games, I think they missed like 8 or 10.
Wow.
And a couple of those were in Canberra because Grandma's mother passed away. And she goes, I'm sorry I won't be there. I've got to go to my mum's funeral. So they love that. I'll quiz you though. Do you remember my first touch in that game?
No.
So when Dell scores, they had the old sub that you could go for 4 points or 2 points.
Was Dell's try, was that off the Scotty Prince kick?
Yeah. And then they had like, you could go for, instead of 2 points for a goal.
Oh, I had
you could
like a power play, didn't I?
Power play.
Yeah.
So Neil Henry puts me on and he goes, we're going to do this play, blah, 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 out the back. And I've come out the back and Manu Vadavai has just launched in. Because I'm on the bench and he goes, righto, power play. Out the back.
Special teams.
Set play. Manu Vadavai, the beast. Crunch. Straight to me, folded, back to the bench. Like, it was literally, that was my first touch. And King, I caught up with him the other week. Like, he was really good and doesn't get enough credit for those early days with the Indigenous boys. That Māori camp that we played before 08, like, he took the job. We had one training shirt, one pair of shorts.
You had like a white, blue, I remember it.
And it was, and we won the game. And like Presto, that's where it all started.
Yeah.
Yeah, I roomed with Presto and the Jensen boys and all that. And, that was where it started. But that first night on the Gold Coast, I actually roomed with JT. So here's a good story for you. So we go to All-Stars camp and Wayne goes, I know Neil. I got him to room me with JT for the week. And I was, how good. And I get to...
What year is this, sorry?
This is 09. So this is the first All-Stars camp.
So JT's well and truly JT by now.
JT's JT. Yeah. And we get on the piss and I fall asleep nude on his bed, right? And he comes in and he goes, brah, what are you doing, brah? Like that. And I went, like that. And I woke up and he goes, yeah, I'm a bed nude, brah. Like he's, JT. And I just remember going, I went sober like that. And I went, do you want to I'll get on my bed. And he goes, nah, then I have to sleep in like you, like that. The next day at training, it was like he made me feel, obviously made fun of me, but that whole week in camp is where it clipped for me, Guru. Like, he would be JT off the field, right? He would put his boots on. As soon as he stepped into the cauldron or the field, he was JT.
Yeah.
And that was when I realised, because I'd had a great year in 09, like individually. Mm-hmm. And that was when I realised that, because I was very intense both sides, that I could be a little bit more me and enjoy life a little bit more, which is why I think with Maddie, my wife and 2 kids, so I've got that really good balance and that energy and that passion for it now, because I realise, like I said, the boots are always on. Sometimes the laces are undone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So JT's eyes would roll back and then, he passed me the ball. He made the play. I just ran away from Michael Jennings, which I was all right. I was quick.
Good move, Jenko.
He could. He didn't catch me, though.
Especially back then, he could move.
He didn't gain anything on me, which is something I was proud of. See, the girls now that I coach, they don't realise, like, I'll tell some of them, I jumped in and you'll love this, I jumped in and opposed just with the girls, just helping them out, and I threw, like, just a cutout pass, And one of the girls like, good pass. And I stopped immediately and was insulted and went, I said, are you serious? I've played 12 years in the NRL. I can throw a cutout pass 15 metres. Relax.
That's great. Credit to her. She's nailed
they don't let me away with it. I mean, Bobby Law's turned in, she's like family now, but she's turned into, when you become real tight, like after this, I'll be able to sledge you forever now. Yeah. She was doing that before we got like this. So now it's great, mate. But good pass. What? Excuse me.
Now, mate, when you first come to Sydney, you're obviously playing under Shane Flanagan, and one guy I want to talk about though is head coach of the Sydney Roosters, Ricky Stewart, who I personally think has got the most underrated kicking game of all time, especially long kicking game. He was second to none. I always have a giggle to myself. Freddie retires 04, 05. The Roosters hire Brad Fittler as their kicking coach, despite having Ricky Stewart as their head coach. And I just always remember thinking, why the fuck do you need a kicking coach when you got Ricky Stewart there? Always blew me away. What did he add to your game as far as your kicking game went?
Stick or Freddie?
Sticky.
I think Sticky, it's hard sometimes as a head coach because you're looking after everyone. So it's hard to not get your hands dirty, but spend extra time with certain players. So, Sticky was very hard on me when I was a junior. And I think I'd come full circle when I worked with him in Origin. He'd realise that, I was just never, ever going to be the halfbacks that he'd coached. I was always going to be different. I didn't dig the ball right into the line, but I could kick the ball a mile. or I could chip and chase or, stuff like that. So Sticky was very hard on me early on, and I think if we sat down here now, like it held me in good stead, but there were some tough times where I'd come out of video crying because I just didn't understand the game. I was undefeated in 04, grand final 05, grand final 06, had played 20 games in that. And probably the one thing that Sticky does is he cares, and I can see a little bit of Sticky coaching in me. Like he really cares about his players. And, in 05, I made my debut, and the next day Dad had a heart attack. So, that for me was, I never really processed that. It was footy, like get back to footy, and I took a couple of weeks off, and my stepdad took me out to a reserve grade game, and I think I said something like, oh, man, I can't believe, like, what are we watching this for? And he's like, well, do you want to play that or do you want to play that? And and it took me a while, but Sticky really cared for me during that period. I think he showed me a resilience of, which is what I try and show the girls now, is like getting to first grade is really hard. Staying there is really, really, really hard, and doing your job every week and trusting you. And, I remember him saying, like, we can't have you in first grade at the moment. You set up 2 tries, you let one in. And in my head, I'm going, well, I'm still in the plus, right? Like, but he told me, he taught me a toughness and showed me that I had to be resilient in certain stages. Plus, I had to learn to boss people around, which coming from arguably one of the greatest 5'8" of all time in Freddie and that crew that he had, it was going to be hard. So I think he was trying to prepare me for the future. In 2011, I had a really enjoyable experience in Origin. Like Stick just came in and said, how do you want to play? He'd realised that I'd sort of earned my dues and got that. But when he brought Freddie in, Freddie actually, taught me about consistency and strike of the ball and, routine. Yes, something we take for granted as kickers is getting into that routine of strike and drop and position, purpose, all that kind of stuff. And, we did a drill, like a runway drill with Louis and Freddie. You just had to, it was like 30 wide, kick as far as you could. As far as you could. And Louis just nails one. It's like 65 metres. Next one's out. Next one's 65. Out. I think he went 3 for 6. And then I went sort of like 50, 50, 50, plugged down. And, that became the goal of like, righto, well, great, you can kick it 65 metres. Can you do it 6 times in a row? Yep. Can you do it 10 times in a row? Can you do it with the game on the line? So Freddie taught me that about repetition and understanding other people's positions. Like kicking for the winger, if you miss by 2 metres, he's wasted 40 metres for you. So he'd do a drill where I remember he put Sam Perrott in the kicker and me on the wing, and like it was just appreciation of how hard. Okay, so Sam would spray it, and he'd go, right, well, see how hard it is for Soward to kick the ball 40 metres, and then Sam would kick, like nail one, and I've come through and half dropped it, and you go, see how hard it is to run full pelt and catch it. So that was all in Freddie's method, was appreciation. But the thing about Sticky and Freddie when they would work together is they'd done it all. So I was probably a bit overawed of like, holy shit, And then there was a part of me that was like, well, what Wayne got out of me was coaching what I was good at and get better at that. And Wayne said, what are the 5 things you're good at? I said, I don't know. He goes, you don't know what you're good at? I was like, well, I'm good at kicking. I feel like I can run the ball. I can understand the game. So just work on that. The other stuff we need you to work on, but just get great at that, which comes out of the Craig Bellamy method. Don't worry about being good at 10 things. Be great at 4 things as a team.
Nail those.
And the rest will work our game around being great at those 4 things.
Mate, I often look back at those early 2000s for the Roosters, and they won in 02. I would argue the 03 team was better than the 02 team. I'd argue the 04 team was better than both of them, but 02 was the only side that won. I think 03 and 04 are 2 of the greatest teams ever to not win a comp, but they were built on brutal defence. And, I've spoken to guys like Minnie, Chris Flanagan, they just said those pre-seasons were
torture,
just off their fucking head. Like, we'll never see anything like that again. Did you go through all of those?
I think the 05 one I did, but I was coming back from shoulder surgery, Rico, but like you'd build up the 50 hundreds, like to finish your session. And, Like, everyone goes, it's only 5K, and you're like, yeah, but you run it in waves, and it's a competition within yourself. And, like, they used to kick off, you'd remember they had the
Summer
wall.
too.
The wall, yeah, they had the wall on the kickoff. Yep. So you'd look across and you'd see Morley, Kalis, Flannery, that forward pack, Ricketson, Freddie, and then he'd put his hand up and they'd all just move like big soldiers into it. So those pre-seasons were really, really tough. But I was a young whippersnapper back then. It was like, how good.
Were they ES Mark sessions, or were they at Wentworth? Or?
Yeah, Wentworth and ES Marks. But, like, you go to the Sandhills and I was 78, 80, 90 or 80 kilos. So now I'd die.
Have you been to ES Marks lately by any chance? Seen it? They've just got rid of the big grandstand.
Yeah.
You know, like as you drive in, it's all open now. It looks completely different.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it looks
we used to do
different.
the 5K in 20 minutes on the rower.
Yeah.
That used to be Sticky's thing, and the 4 and 5. And, like, 4 laps of a field in 5 minutes. And one day, Sticky, we're doing it, and excuse me, Texas, Chris Walker comes late. He gets out of the cab, and, like, we're 2.5 laps in this thing. And anyone that's done a 4 and 5 is like, it's hard. And Sticky just blows his whistle. We're starting again for Texas, but you hear the groans. Texas takes off, one boot. It starts running. He goes, if you don't win this, Texas, we're all going to do it again. Anyway, if you came through and you got your time, your reward was you got to keep training. If you missed, you got to go home. So there's like half a dozen boys that have missed their 5 minutes and they've had to go in and have a shower. But it was old school then. You could tell someone to get, and blow up a little bit, and you had to take it.
Yeah. Who were the guys that, when you were coming through, that you watched how they kicked, or you watched how they approached their kicking game, or little things you took from them that you applied to your own game? Is there anyone that stands out for you?
So 04, I think it was, Gus came to me with 6 VHSs, videotapes, for those people watching this that are under 20. Google VHS. And he wanted me to study Darren Lockyer for that Origin series. And I went and watched those tapes religiously and just thought, okay, what's he doing? And I've always thought that AFL is the best way to learn, and watch the way they hold the ball. And when I teach kids now, so many of them drop the ball like that instead of having their hands in front. And you watch the AFL guys kick, and essentially you're trying to get your hand off the ball like that, so you can hold it in one hand and shape the ball, and then when you get really good, you can shape it and move it and all that kind of stuff. And torpies you hit out of the inside, or now we see the inside torpy, which I think is a useless kick, but I would kick a torpy out of the belly. So when I studied Lockie, I got that there. Yeah, when I studied Lockie, I just looked at how quickly he got rid of the ball and how he dropped the ball, drop punt, and I started building off that, so that when we had that scrimmage against the Blues, Gus gave me free rein. Chip chase. I got Luke Rooney from the old 20-metre tap where you could kick. And I got Luke Rooney and Freddie blew up, and it was probably one of my best memories. Because I just remember, like Gus just said, you've got no limits here. Because usually when you do an opposed, what happens is the first grade team goes a little bit soft. They need to and then someone makes a line break, then they start tackling you, right? So we did that, and then we chip and chase. I think we scored a try off that, and like we were a good side, the 04 flag side. But I just watched Lockie, just the way that he shaped the ball, the way that he got rid of it early. So I learnt a lot of stuff off him. And then because I was a student of the game, I'd watch Joey and I'd watch Brett Kamali go to the line, and Jason Taylor to a certain extent, the way that they went to a line and opened up a lane for themselves. And by a lane, I mean, if these are your defenders and you come across, and I'm sort of got the ball and I'm coming across here, this guy's going to put pressure on. This guy might hang back because he's got to stay out. That's your lane to kick in. Or sometimes I drop someone underneath to try and get to this lane to open up. But if I kick it back too far here, I'm going to kick it into someone, or they're trapping scrap. So, watching those guys like Kamali and...
Well, I always think Kamali's the king of kicking into lanes.
Yes, yeah.
He was the absolute wizard at it.
And because he went right to the line and did that, he was able to do that. So, finding lanes, and you look at that series in 04, the kicking games back then used to be super important, right? So then you get your education about how, when, why, who, what, which comes with experience.
And as I said before, I think that period between, Kamali, Lockie, Freddie, Brent Sherwin was another one, had a cracking kicking game.
Yep.
Like, there was some of the best kickers of a football were
Scott
around in the early
Prince.
2000s. Princey,
Yep.
Joey, obviously.
Yep.
There were some of the all-time greats during that period. What about the guys you watch now? Who are the guys you enjoy watching now as far as their kicking game?
I think, I admire the length and height that Mitchell Moses gets. I think the way that he goes about his kicking game at times, I still don't think he kicks early enough. I reckon no one kicks early enough, but I think he, at times, could probably use his game management more and use that big kick. I don't know how many 40-20s he's kicked, but over the last couple of years, I wouldn't say it's in the top one or two. I love watching Cherry Evans.
I was about to say DC is the perfect example of that.
I love watching Cherry Evans. The way that he can manipulate a game, and it's a bit old school. Yeah, it's a bit like he'll kick from his 30 when they're
I love
up
when you
against
see Ches on his 30 or 40 and push the dummy half out of the way. And
Yeah.
go, no, this is the moment. I need it right now.
Yeah, and then you look at Nathan Cleary and the way that he does it as well. And I think that's, Penrith are so good across the park that at times I think they rely too heavily on him to kick him into position versus kicking early. Like, again, those three guys are probably the standouts. Adam Reynolds is a genius. Like, his short kicking game, his understanding of when he goes to the line and he does that little chip, I don't think I've seen anyone better with a touch with that chip.
I've said a few times this year, I genuinely think there's an argument of him being the greatest kicker of a football ever. I reckon he's right up there with the very best of them. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, do I give myself a rap? Nah.
To be fair, here or not, I would have you in that top realm as well. But I just think, that the way that Adam Reynolds and
what makes him so good? So let's take away strike. This is what probably gets him over the line. It's his understanding of what the game needs. So you can be the best kicker in the world, and I think this is where Nathan and Mitchell still can grow. What kind of kick do we need here? Do we need the 7th bomb into the corner in a row? Yes, because that's what the coach is. But if I'd gone 2 plays earlier, I might be able to get a repeat set. I might be able to turn Sevo around or turn these big wingers around earlier to be able to go down there, and instead of getting it on our 40 or our 30, we get it on our 50 because we amp up defence, and it sends a message to your defensive line as well, like, boys, I'm in control here. Sometimes we see kickers, they wait to the last, and you're like, that's so boring. But when you're in control, you dictate how the team's going. So I think Reynolds, you're right, he is. JT was great. Cameron Smith, his understanding, Cronk. We forget some of those guys, but in the last sort of 6-7 years, definitely Reynolds is up there, not just because of his strike, but it's his decision making. He just always knows what the right kick is.
He understands every moment.
Yeah, that's right.
Takes it all in.
Yep.
Perfectly.
But decides that in from dummy half to here. Like, I tell young kids all the time, and probably my biggest gripe with the game right now is too many young guys come into grade and it's last tackle. Oh, shit. It's the last tackle. I better kick. Oh, well, if I kick it to that corner, it's all right because I've done what the coach says. Sometimes take yourself out of the set, still get your back row as the ball, still get your front row as the ball, play forward, Cherry Evans, step up, kick. That's the art of being a good kicker. Not necessarily kicking at a mile, or the understanding of when, what, and who, and all that stuff is what makes Reynolds and Cherry Evans great, which is why they've done it the longest.
I also think, looking on the other side of the coin, shits me to no end. You see so many guys on last tackle now, as you said. They get the ball 40 metres out. The wingers drop back, fullback's there. They get the ball in last and they just kick it. If on fourth tackle they would have looked up and there was 3 men, what do? Do they kick or do they take it on? They run it on.
Yeah.
But same situation, but just the pressure of it's last tackle, And guys just go to water in that moment and don't back in their ability to be able to, zing a 5-on-3.
Because they've looked there.
Yeah.
You look there and you look there, then you know where the ball's coming from.
Yeah.
Right? We know where the dummy half is. So for me, it's like, look up. Okay, oh, shit. Oh, Sivo's gone. Righto. You ready? Look, the thing about Gaz was he always wanted the ball. Before he left, he always wanted the ball, so I'd just go zing, and it was the wrong time. When he came back in town, it was like, you'll get the ball because I'm in control. And he'll probably say that, like, it wasn't 05 shimmy whoosh Gaz, but it was a better all-round for the team, which is why we won. So you're right. They just get in there and they go, last, holy shit, I'll just kick it there. The coach will be happy.
Which is, once again, comes back to what I said before, that all chips in mentality.
Yeah.
If you get it wrong, it's last tackle. What the fuck are you doing? You hand the ball over on the 40-metre line. But you've got to have the mindset to back your ability to be able to take that on.
Well, if you kick one out the full, like I kicked one out the full in 14 against the Roosters at the SFS. Rory Hargraves pressure. I'd come from the wrong side, and like we hear everyone goes, oh, you got to be on this side because you're a left footer, and on this side you're a right footer. No, I won the comp on the right side. It's about getting yourself in position. It's not about what foot you are. It's about getting yourself in position and understanding that my job here is we're pushing shit up a hill. I've got to get myself in position to get us a good kick. So I can't be caught there. I can be here, or I can be there, or I can be anywhere, but I just can't be there with pressure on me. And I got one wrong on Maria Hargraves, and the whole crowd went up and all that shit. And I was like, I smiled because I just went, you idiot. You just failed to prepare for that set, and you got burnt, and you risked it. And then the next set, I was prepared, and we ended up winning the game.
Cracking game, that one.
Mate, it was... Well, Roosters had won the comp 13.
Yep.
And we were like the Cinderella story of injuries. We had a shitload of injuries. Will Smith was my 5'8", which is why I blew up that the Tigers weren't playing him at 5'8" when he was in their stocks. Yeah, he's such a tough footballer, but he's a footballer. He's old school.
Yeah.
He'll razzle-dazzle. He'll make some mistakes, but he wants the footy. And then, we had like Brent Kite, Chico, Dallin Martini. It was funny. The preseason 14, I kicked the footy and it was rolling dead, and it just went dead, and Dallin gave up on the chase. And Dallin's a good Christian boy. Like you don't swear around Dallin, right? And I baked him. Absolutely baked him. You look back to that play, I just said, mate, don't give up on the effing play. You never know what that effing ball can do, blah, blah, blah. I went off him, righto. I'm like, nah. He somehow flicks the ball back in when it's in the stands, and Dean Vare scores, and it's like, oh, that's what you mean. I'm like, yeah, mate, you can do things I can't. I can do things you can't. Yeah. Together we can do things.
I was going to talk about that play because I quite often look at a guy like Adam Reynolds and yourself, you're the same. Everything looks so perfect all the time, but sometimes it's your unorthodox kicks that like that kick looked ugly as fuck. It looked disgusting.
It was putrid.
But it was in the right spot at the right time just to force the Roosters to make a bad decision.
Well, it was... So Gus had a massive part of my career. He coached me my first week.
Yeah.
My first try assist was because of Gus. The plan was to pass out the back off a tap, cross kick field to Joel Monahan, and then, Sticky switched, but Mossy was there and Mossy scored. But Gus had tipped me up. He said, Minnie hates coming round to get the ball. So he'll always charge. Everyone knows the great highlights of kick comes down, Minnie charges onto it, runs back. But if you find ground, he always has to come around to get it. So if you go back and watch that game, I kick one close to the sideline and Minnie slides in and sort of half, gets... I think he got the ball and then went close to the sideline, or we may have even put him into touch. So the next time down, it's not a great kick, but the purpose was for Minnie was out of position to try and get him to come around and get it so we can throw him into touch again and he just gets out of position.
It's that sort of shit that I feel like kickers nowadays don't know about their fullbacks.
Well, they don't watch footy, man. It's cool not to watch footy now. Like my wife, God bless her soul, watches 8 games with me every week.
Yeah.
And sometimes we sit there and we realise when it's a shit game. But, when I first met her, she loved footy. She loves footy, mate. Like she would sit here and she might not watch many podcasts or listen to any shit that I talk about. Yeah. She'll probably listen to this.
Good.
Someone will. Someone will. All the over 30s will, because they'll find this interesting. But it's cool not to watch footy now, mate. You know,
Bizarre.
me and you could sit here literally for days with a case of bloke, and we would just talk about, the greatest tries. Cliffy Lyons. Someone asked me about Cliffy Lyons. I said, scored the greatest try ever. Oh, what do you mean? When he handles it 3 times in the 90-90 kangaroo tour, you haven't seen it? You got to YouTube it, mate. Come on.
Back on the inside.
Yeah, back on the inside. The kick, like this. Yeah, it's a weird time, man. There's so many other options out there, and you got to love the game. And Ricky Stewart taught me that. I was out watching my brother play gridiron. Yeah, and that used to be, because back in the day, like, you preps your own time. Wayne taught me that. So you do whatever you do to get ready. And I went and watched him play, and Sticky said, rang me. I'm like, Ricky Stewart, did you see that from Lockie? And I went, huh? No, I'm out watching my brother play green. He's like, you should be at home watching footy, blah, blah, blah. And I went, saw it 2 ways. At the time, I went, mate, relax. Like, I've got a game tomorrow. I do my own prep. But the other part was like, am I watching enough? So from that day dot, I was like, yeah, I can take time off, but I've also got to make sure I get my study in. Yeah. And I was a shit trainer. I wasn't fit. And I didn't do a lot of self-review and video because I'd already watched the game 3 times. So I didn't cut a lot of stuff. That was when it was starting to come in with Analyzer. Yep. But I just have this uncanny knack, and not being arrogant or anything like that, is that I could watch a game or I could watch a team. Similar to yourself, when you watch a kid play now, you can see their style. Yep. It's just, we've watched enough footy, I can see their style. I can break down a game for you. Fine.
But it is going to be interesting in 30, 40 years' time. Where are those people going to be? Like, there's not enough of them around anymore.
We'll be old.
Yeah, 100%. But, I mean, we're not going to be around forever.
Nah. And I'm teaching the girls now, like, the girls' game is exploding, and we love it, right? We absolutely love it, because there's a part of us, and I know you'll appreciate this, is there's that little bit of element of rawity about it that's we saw as 16-year-olds. We played, there's not as much structure, it's fast-paced. There's still girls learning their skills, so there's going to be mistakes, and there's also going to be amazing bits of skill that just happen. You go, how'd that happen? The ball's going to bounce, and there's not going to be 3 people who've previewed that know where the ball's going to bounce. It's going to be a bit of a lottery, right? So I'm teaching the girls that to be professional, and if you want it to be professional, this is how it's going to be.
Yep. One of my good mates now, I absolutely love the bloke. He came in here in the pre-season, Jackson Hastings. He's one of us.
Yeah.
I'll be sitting there on a Saturday, and at fucking 5:34, he'll send me a message about I play the ball or about this, because he's watching everything. And I remember when he signed with the Newcastle Knights, he was sitting there. Yep. When it all happened, he was sitting there. And he literally said to me and Matty about, and like, he didn't know he was signing with Newcastle. It came up in a week. And he spoke that day straight away about how he was going to utilise Bradman Best.
Yep.
And how he hadn't been utilised properly, and just the way he was going to get the ball and whatnot. And just watching how that's played out to the point where Bradman Best now plays Origin off the back of who's his halfback on that edge, who's actually unlocked him and utilised him properly. And it's just that little shit I worry about that we're going to lose in our game, because there's so many less Jacksons around nowadays. It's not even funny.
Well, firstly, we need a group chat, so you'll have to start that.
Oh, God, yeah.
But the thing I like about, and I reached out to Jackson because I think I see a lot of myself in him, my older years, in terms of, we probably said and did things that we'd probably look back on and wish we'd handled it differently, but our ego probably got in the way a little bit, and I had that with Hook. I didn't know what ego was until Hook came, and then I was out in my arse in London, and then I retired. But working with him as a man, and I credit Hook to what I've been able to achieve in terms of after footy by taking that ego out and realising that stuff. And I look at Jacko and I just think, like, he's got so much footy knowledge and understanding that at times he forgets to worry about himself.
Yep.
And there's other times where he probably is himself too much and doesn't get other guys involved. So, what he's been able to do with Bradman this year is understand and take control, back to what we said. You need the ball, Bradman? Yeah, okay. What does the team need? And how do I make that split decision? Yeah. Katoni Staggs and Reynolds. Staggs, would you say Staggs is having a good year? Don't look at your super coach.
Not really, to be honest with
Herbie Farnworth's playing better.
He's the strike centre at that club.
So Ezra is understanding that they can play to that side, whereas Katoni Staggs is more drops, double drops, second phase sort of play back of the field. So, for Adam at the moment, he's got to understand, and he's probably working on it, is you can't just throw the centre of the ball anymore. You've got to work and manipulate and all that stuff. But the other part of it is that they know they're in for a battle when they face Katoni. They've got to be strong defensively, and they can't let him skip on the outside. So they stand to the outside all the time. So how do you manipulate that? Because everyone does video.
Yeah.
How do you manipulate that and get him involved? So the times that he looked really good is when he's come back in on an angle, skims back across, and then you play and you've got Ezra, Walsh and Farnworth on that left-hand side.
I found, sort of talking about a strike centre, you obviously had Mark Gasnier return in 2010. And I did find it interesting the amount of times you got to use him, turning him under.
Yeah.
Something I really noticed towards the back end of 2010, which was never really part of his game in the early parts. It was all get him the ball as quickly as he possibly can, shimmy, then he'll do his thing. But it was something that I noticed that especially Darius would quite often turn him under as well. Is that something you guys identified with him that was better to utilise him? Or is that how teams were defending him? Or
Yeah, I think, like I said, before Gaz left, I was very much, oh my God, that's Mark Gasnier, just get him the ball. This is his club. I wasn't insecure about my position in first grade. When he came back, I was established in first grade and in the competition. So I understood that when we had plays to his side, he'd be, in that Tigers semi-final, they kept coming up and in. And the first half, I don't think he touched the ball. So second half, he just said, you got to throw it. You got to trust me. Like Lottie Takiri's not even looking at the intercept. So we just went up and in. Chris Lawrence, we threw it and we played. So there's times like that where I think Gaz matured in that, where he was able to say when he needed the ball versus when he wanted the ball. But Darbs doing drop plays and all that kind of stuff was because Gaz is big. Like, if you stand next to Mark Gasnier, he is big and strong and fast. So, again, if we're talking about, on an edge, you look at the way that's Gaz's centre. Once we'd played and the guy had chased out, the half started to chase Darius, we're trying to not work on this area. We're trying to work on this area where the half has left the back row who's made 35 tackles and had 5 carries, 6 carries, 7 carries. So we're trying to stretch that gap. So if he overchases, now we've got a front rower with feet. Yeah. So instead of working on people that train for feet, we get Gaz back in here and change of angle at speed. Plus, the other side, if it was Darius that wasn't there, we could just instantly go to that left-hand side, which was like money. For 2 years, Brett Morris scored 50 tries, I think, and it was just money on that edge.
You're the greatest winger ever?
Yes.
Yep.
Name another winger that longevity-wise reinvented himself so many times. He played fullback. He was fast, lightning fast, could score tries. Defensively, what he did at the Roosters in 2019, or I think it was unbelievable.
He's on my short list of unluckiest guys to not win a Clive Churchill medal that night for the Roosters.
Yeah,
he was incredible. Jack White won it for his kicking game. Who took care of his kicking game all night? Brett Morris.
Yeah, and the thing about,
I would argue the Raiders win that grand final if there was any other winger in the history of rugby league on the right wing for the Roosters that night.
Well, I think sometimes, and you can have an opinion on this, we don't give BMOS the credit because he wasn't big.
Yep.
So we look to the big, and there's been some amazing wingers, don't get me wrong, but what BMOS did, the way that he'd kick return, he would burn you.
If you were to argue he's not the best winger ever, I don't think you could possibly push back on him not being, like, he's the most consistent winger I've ever seen.
Yes.
And there is no questions. I won't hear any other names. No questions whatsoever. No. Can I ask you, mate, when I look back at your career, I'm interested to hear what your moment is, but if I had to pick one moment that was like a general play kick, not a conversion, not a field goal, the kick that stands out to me is to Gasnier in the grand final.
I want to hear you break it down because there's some technical stuff that's really wrong.
And you know what? I'm pretty confident they're above my head. But I just remember as soon as that ball left your foot, I just remember thinking they cannot defend that.
Yeah.
It only ends one way. And you do not see it very often where a kick from, I would say you're about 10 metres to the side of the left side of the sticks. It's very rare that you see a ball. Like, if I saw that ball kicked like that by a guy on Friday night, I would almost go, it's going in the middle of the in-goal. That's a shit kick. but it was so perfect that the Roosters couldn't do fucking shit about it. And even the angle that Gazni is able to catch the ball, there was only ever one person that was able to catch that ball, and it was Gaz.
Yeah.
Was that worked on in the weeks leading up to it? Yeah.
The week of.
Yeah.
Week of, we called it Frenchie. Technically, it's a shit kick. It's a really bad kick. I'm falling off the ball, which doesn't give you the tempo to be able to feel it. I'm sure if you text Jacko and ask him, when you go towards your target on a kick like that, you can feel the ball when it hits the foot. When you're falling away, you're just trying to make up that power and direction. But we'd practiced it, and I remember, it's fun. You remember in Coach Carter when the coach is running the plays and he's going, "Yeah, that's my play." I did that. I designed that. Like, we'd done Frenchie and we did it. We probably practiced it maybe 15 times and like had the cameras off, and you just see the wily old fox. He's just got the sunnies on. He's like, yeah. He goes, because our game plan was to kick to BJ Leilua exclusively. Don't worry about Minicello, just kick.
Unfortunately for BJ, the whole game plan that day looked to be built around him.
Yeah, because we didn't plan to attack him. We had planned to kick to him and tire him out. And then off the back of that, at halftime, we made some adjustments around, okay, I think if you look at that second, like the Gaz catch was better than the kick, I reckon. But if you look at the first set after halftime, people ask me, what was the turning point? Was it Wayne at halftime? I was like, yep. It was a simple message. You just have to win the second half. And I was like, thanks, Scoop. Like, yeah. But the first set after halftime, I nailed a general play kick that found the grass that finished 2 metres out from the try line. That was the set. Because then everyone went, we're back.
Why?
Because that was our plan A. Yeah, in the first half, we'd got that try pretty early.
Like, explain to the people at home that wouldn't understand, what's the domino effect of you finding the turf on that kick?
So Minicello and Leilua have to go back and get it. And if you watch our kick chase line, we come down and form one line. And then from that, we assert dominance, not for the next, now you could assert it for the next maybe couple of minutes. We assert dominance for the next 35 minutes. Just based off that, because they knew that they had to go back and get the ball 50 metres, and our line coming straight out of half time was ready to go. We weren't just going to like kick and go high and let BJ bring it back. We found the grass, and that's why I say it's undervalued finding the grass.
Before you kick that ball, what do you see? Is it BJ's positioning? Is it Mini's positioning? Or what is it to you that in that moment ticks something in your head that goes, this is the play I need here?
Yeah, so Mini's always, or a fullback's always going to cheat to me on my right shoulder because I'm left-footed. So I think Mini's always standing centre field and BJ's starting to track back. So really, I've got a small margin for error where I'm kicking in between. So let's just say that Mini's here. Now, BJ's got to respect the run because we got Gaz, right? So when he starts to track back to there, I've started to get that part of the angle. So if you watch that kick, it's actually not a high kick to try and get ground. I wanted to purposely find the ground. One, because I remembered that we wanted to kick the BJ, but I want to find the ground so that we can start to get our kick chase on. Perrett's coming from the other side to get the footy. So with him jumping around and bouncing around, we don't give him a chance to beat, guys in the middle, Ben Cray, all that kind of stuff. So as the gap closes and he goes back to get the ball, he ends up coming back to get it, and our line's formed. They got two people behind the ball, and then we assert dominance for pretty much the next 40 minutes. I don't think they got in our half until the last 7, in our 20.
Yeah. Something I find when I'm coaching with halves, a lot of them in that moment would put the emphasis on fine touch there.
Nah.
And I always just think, no. You want to win that kick by keeping it in play and then winning those next 6 tackles, which I think is very. I think you quite often when you're sitting at the pub and someone finds touch, and like in my head I sit there and go, no, should have kept that in play. That was a moment you could win momentum, and you hear people all the time, great kick, found touch, how good.
Well, it did 2 things. It's a minute after half time, and secondly, the Roosters had to go back and look at us coming for them. We hadn't played how we wanted to in the first half. We conceded, I would say, the Orbison try was silky play. We just got us. And the Braith and Astor try probably cancels out the Gaz try that we went into touch, right? So once they see that wall, there would have been that sense of, when there's a Cinderella story and it's like, we can win today, we can win today, we can win today. Something goes wrong. No, we can win today, we can win today. Holy shit, can we win today? That was that can we win today moment.
The moment in that grand final, you kicked the goal sort of from that awkward spot that all kickers talk about. And I think it's probably the most emotional 6 seconds I see from you in your career. Explain that moment to me.
Yeah, I think it takes us out to 18-8. I get goosebumps because I felt like I think I've always wanted to be respected, right? Everyone wants to get respect, and I give so much respect to people throughout the years. And I felt like in that moment I was close to getting some redemption or respect. And you don't have to like me. You don't. That's fine. I've got enough friends. I tell the girls all the time, I'm not here to be your friend. But in terms of respect for my game, because I'd worked just as hard as anyone else. I'd done the hours. So to make that kick and be, holy shit, this is happening, I felt like that was my turn to get a little bit of respect. And that's not in an arrogant way. We're allowed to want things and we're allowed to say things. Too often we're criticised for that stuff. The Gus 5-year plan, everyone has a 5-year plan. You know where you want to be in 5 years? I know where I want to be in 5 years.
If you don't have a 5-year plan, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, that's right. So I felt like there was a bit of redemption in that moment for all the people that he can't tackle, he doesn't run the footy, all he does is kick field goals, all that stuff. And it's like, well, screw you. I've just kicked the goal in the middle of the rain. I've kicked 6 from 7, and I'm about to wear a ring for one of the most famous brands, not in Australia, in the world.
What did it mean to you to have the full backing of Wayne Bennett?
He trusted me, and I trusted him. And I think that's all you can ask when you've got players that trust you. And I'm trying to instill that into the girls of we can all go out and train and we can all that stuff. But in crucial moments, knowing that Wayne, 2, 6, 8, field goal. He, World Club Challenge, BMOS makes a break. Wayne didn't coach. He came home because his mum was sick. And BMOS made a break and we had 7 on maybe 3 overlap. Score was 20-15. I knock a field goal over from 21 out. 21-15. Gaz, boys blowing up. Buzz up. Get in the sheds after the game. Wily old Fox rings me. He goes, why'd you kick the field goal? I said, well, mate, at that time, we can't lose if I kick the field goal. We can tie, and I'm confident we win, but we can't lose. And he goes, enjoy honkers. And I did.
No doubt. No doubt whatsoever.
But you know what I mean? Like that, I got the greatest coach of all time ringing me saying that, not that I made the right decision, but that he trusted me to make the right decision.
Obviously, a number of decisions in your life and career lead up to you being paired up with Wayne Bennett. If that wouldn't have ever happened, how do you think your career would have played out if Wayne wouldn't have entered your life and your career?
Maybe 60 or 70 games. What if, potentially? Wayne taught me a lot about off-field and, your preps your own time is a favourite saying of mine. There's clips of Dell dancing around the sheds while I'm yawning, and not that I was tired, just I'm focused on what I need to do. So I think back to, I'd already sort of half established that I was going to play NRL, but maybe 60, 70 games. You look what he's done. Cody Walker's a fantastic player, but being the experience under Wayne and the lessons that he learned, plus Jason Demetriou, from me, I don't know anything about their program, but he hasn't looked like he's just wiped exactly what Wayne did. Yeah. He's taken a fair chunk of that and driven some of that stuff and just slowly sprinkled in some stuff within their team.
Which sounds easy.
Yeah, it's hard.
Not many coaches have been able to do it.
No, and that's where me and Pricey probably fell out.
Yeah.
I moved back to the left-hand side of the field. I wasn't tough enough all of a sudden, and I, now me and Pricey would catch up for a beer. When I retired, I realised that my ego had gotten in the way of a lot of things, and I reached out to certain people that I probably had made some mistakes with or not be my best version of. Yeah, and Hook was one of those guys, which is why me and Hook got a fantastic relationship now. And when I met Matty, things became a lot simpler to how I was before rugby league. So rugby league's given me everything, but it's also taught me a lot of shit that I probably wouldn't be good at.
Tends to be my favourite part of the career of halves, and I look at Sean Johnson at the moment. He's obviously, come full circle, and now he's at a point where nothing surprises him. He's seen it all before. The game's in slow motion for him. And as much as I love 2010, it was unbelievable. My favourite part of your career was Panthers, without a fucking doubt. You had this bunch of young kids coming through with you, and it just looked like, similar to DCE, similar to Sean Johnson, you just felt like the game was in slow motion for you. Did you feel that way?
In 14, yeah. I'd come back from England, and I did Kokoda with Ivan and Pascal and Tim Grant, and I was overweight because I'd done England, and trained to a point, but it just felt like the game not had slowed down, but visually, like I felt like I was in control again, and I had a bit of a point to prove. I always played my best when I had a point to prove. So yeah, that 14 year, like you say, you enjoy that. I after 14, I didn't enjoy Penrith, like mentally, physically. I'd had 3 back surgeries in 6 months. I was dealing with divorce, depression, anxiety, issues away from the game. It sort of all stopped, and I worked really hard in 16. But I think the best thing about that 14 team and Ivan was he put a lot of responsibility on you to be ready, and he was going to help you, but he put a lot, like we do our own video for edges. I've never been to another club that does a lot of that.
Yeah, right.
So his coaches would cut. We had systems in place. They'd have 20 clips. Our left edge would go in and cut what we needed to, and then present to the team based off that theory of, well, if I can't tell you what I need to stop this play, how are we going to do that?
From your experiences with Ivan, obviously see where he is now and what he's achieved. Where do you think his coaching career finishes? Does he finish as one of the greats?
Yeah, definitely. I think, the thing with Ive was 11 probably, happened really quickly at the Warriors, and at the Dragons we feel like we left that one on the table. We feel like that was Origin. If we don't play Origin that year, all 8 of us, and maybe 4 of us, we think we win. No disrespect to Manly or the Warriors. But, I've got a lot of time for Ivan. I know that, when he got sacked and all that kind of stuff, but he'd reach out to me. He knew I was doing it tough. He'd come around with Wall and watch Origin, and, his favourite saying is it's a grey game. It's not black and white, it's a grey game. You got to make your own decisions and all that kind of stuff. But the way that he coaches and now to see what he's doing with his son is obviously an amazing thing. But I could see them getting another 2 titles in the next maybe 5 or 6 years. Maybe one this year, which is a 3-peat, which is up there with Bulls territory.
Yeah, for sure.
And to think that they're all 24.
It's and we'll get to his son in a moment. But the thing that stands out with me with Ivan is that he's consistently coaching the team that he has, the team that he wants.
Yeah.
I think that's a hallmark of great coaches, that they've got the confidence just to be able to coach the guys they've had to what their skill sets are. And it sounds like you've been lucky enough to have a lot of coaches that have been able to do that throughout their career.
Yeah, we'll look at 2010 compared to 2005 and 6. Like, I'm not breaking news here. That 05-06 Dragons team was silky. And compare it to 2010, but like you heard Matty say, 11.8 points. He coached the team that he had. So that's why pundits and everyone has an opinions on teams and stuff, and probably having a little shot at the NRLW people here, but like you don't know what you've got or what other people have got and how they're going to do it. So, you coach the team that you have to what your style is as well and what your philosophies are.
It's interesting with Wayne and like what he's doing up at the Dolphins right now. And what, they might not make finals though, but what they've done and how they've played their rugby league has just got Wayne Bennett written all over it. And I think when we look back through the history of premiership winning sides, I think unfairly, your side, people are going to look at it in 30 years and go, there's no immortals in there. There's none of the greatest players of all time. But I would back your team in against fucking anyone. Absolutely anyone. And people that weren't at old enough to remember or old enough to be alive or old enough to really understand how you guys played, I think you'll always be probably the most underappreciated premiership winning side of all time.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's
The
great.
ring's still on the finger.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But I just think it's so
yeah.
interesting that if you get footy, you get the 2010 Dragons.
Yeah.
If you don't, you don't.
Yeah, and that, like you said, where's that going to be in 30, 40 years? Yeah, because we'll be the team that took the two all the time, not the team that had the best attack and defence. Like, people talk about our defensive stuff that year. We had a pretty good attacking side as well.
You were, yeah.
Average points per game. We just went about it a different way.
Just Wayne through and through.
Yep.
To me.
And people talk about, like, I was probably a product of Wayne. I think Cody Walker's a product of Wayne. Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow is, for me, and I'm not speaking out of school here, but, like, he was like the me version of the Dragons. At the Cowboys, is he a fullback? Is he a wing? Is he a centre? He's fast.
Yep.
Well, no, hold on a second. He's pretty tough. He knows how to play footy, and look what Wayne's done with him. So that's what I see in Hamaso.
The start of that sentence was me 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Is he a fullback? Is he a centre? I don't know. He doesn't even know what he is.
Nah.
It'd be interesting to see what Wayne does. And I mean, like he for me now, like I remember thinking when the Dolphins signed him, going, is he a marquee player? I don't know. Now I'm looking at the next 10 years of Origin, going, this motherfucker is going to terrorise me. He's going to keep me awake at night,
and might not even play his preferred position there. He scores what?
Probably won't because he doesn't
tries
need
in
to.
5 games in centre.
Yeah,
that's what. Again, sidetrack Origin, but like, did we match up trying to put people out of position to match them out of position, not knowing that Val Holmes has played centre a lot longer? Yeah, so I don't know. That's another pod.
Yeah. Not this one. I'll tell you that much for free. Mate, I nominated your general play kick to Gasnier as my favourite Soward play throughout your career. Is there a general play kick that stands out to you?
There was probably not one that stands out, but there was a cool one over in Auckland where Benny Hornby passed me the ball and I sort of just caught it on the half volley and kicked for the corner for Nightingale diving.
Unbelievable catch.
Ripper. And like, back to that whole Freddie thing, like, it just had to be perfect.
Yeah.
It just couldn't be, the Dallin one's special, but he makes the play. It was a shit kick, but I felt like that kick to 90. And like, we used to do the half.
It was in the rain too, wasn't it?
Yeah, in the rain, tough environment. But we used to do like the half. Now how you see, like, they try and isolate the fullback right now to kick to try and challenge for a one-on-one. Yeah. I'm not going to say we started it, but I felt like we sort of did have a plan around that. Like, we'd get Jason off the wing, like a little half bomb, we'd call it, like a little half cage.
Yeah.
And we did it to Lance O'Hire over there, and we did it in Newcastle where it came off the post. So I felt like those kicks and that cool stuff. I had great chases, mate. You're talking about my kicking game all day, but without those guys chasing and believing me, and that's the other half of being a great kicker, is having those guys trust you that you're going to put it on the money.
Yeah. Let's move to your goal kicking, mate. Because you spoke about previously that it was your stepfather sort of told you to really take that seriously and try to build that part of your game. I look back at your career and your goal kicking, and I personally, from sitting in the stands, I never remember you really going through a rut of bad goal kicking or like getting the yips or something. And I'm interested to hear from your point of view if you ever had those periods, because I just don't recall them. It's obviously not something you watch intently close with players, but I just sort of remember you being very consistent throughout your entire career.
So my first goal kicking coach was I used to kick with Craig Fitzgibbon, and then Chook Halligan. Then
Good pedigree.
When I went to the Dragons, 07, I had the yips bad.
Okay.
Because they got me across, and I just remember kicking one in Wollongong that was like, are you a goal kicker?
Yeah.
Those ones. And I went and saw, Kurt Wrigley was the goal kicking coach. I went and saw Graham Arnold, Socceroos coach at Cogra. And I was in this like crouching over and doing all this shit. And it goes in trends, right? So I probably didn't have a style. I just goal kick because I was good at it and no one else really took it off me. But But even like Gaz would kick in 07/08, you know, Brownie had a thing where Gaz would kick outside the 20 and I'd kick inside the 20 off the percentages.
Yep.
So if it was in the 20, we'd be like, who's kicking? Yeah. But Graham Arnold explained to me about momentum into the ball, and he talked about Cristiano Ronaldo. You never see him walk up to the ball and then try and catch up the speed to go in and kick it. And, yeah, once I got to Graham and I kicked with a soccer ball, and I worked with Chook out at Penrith again, but I'll just never forget that. Movement into the ball, positive chest up, you know, working your angles. So if I was on the left-hand side or right-hand side of the field, which is my good side, I'd taken the stuff from Chook's coaching about being up at left post and black dot and all my momentum going that way, and the work of Graham Arnold being angles. So I was always parallel, straight to the ball, but parallel to to the sidelines. When I was on the other side, I was north-south, going that way, and my channel was still the same, but I'd approach the ball the same. So when you saw me do all the kicking the feet and all that march, nothing had changed. It was just my little OCD stuff to go straight that angle to the ball. And then it ended up, like, I didn't take it to Penrith because it was just this Dragons march. I don't know, just became, so I played on a little bit, but it just ended up holding me in good stead. Movement into the ball and then angles. Get your angles straight. Take Graham Arnold's part, put it in with Chook's part about the avenue of where to be at left post, all your momentum going up left post. That's it.
Who's the goal kicker you love watching the most nowadays?
I love watching Zach. Yeah. I know he's had a rough year, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone strike the ball more cleanly than Zach. Last year I think he kicked 24, 25 in a row, which is really hard to do. But I look at guys now, and like I spoke to a very good mate of mine who's a soccer nut, and he said the best striker in the comp is Tanner Boyd. He said his rhythm, the way that he strikes the ball, his most consistent strike. Now, sometimes we judge consistency by going through the post, of course, because we need 2 points. But if you look at his overall style, he said Tanner Boyd, from all soccer reports and all blokes there, has the best strike in the game. But I love watching Cleary and Moses. I think Moses has worked really hard on his goal kicking, which is cool. To see that growth, and you got to want to do it. Goal kicking's boring, mate. You practice in front of front rowers who have one kick from the sideline after training and go, it's not that hard, bro. What are you doing, man? Like, wingers come in, like everyone's having a go. But, I think like Cleary's the ultimate goal kicker. Reynolds, I think, struggled a little bit this year.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's that groin stuff playing up or he's trying to kick it too hard. But I think the best kicker right now is Cleary.
I look at Newcastle at the start
Val
of the year.
Holmes is good too.
I was about to say Val Holmes is my favourite striker of the ball.
Yeah.
He's like a 4-iron. They just go.
Yeah.
I look at Newcastle start of the year, and no one else at home probably gave a shit, but I thought it was interesting that they would have one side of the field, Lockie Miller would kick, the other side of the field, Jackson Hastings would kick. Yeah. And I do wonder if that's potentially the future for goal kicking. What are your thoughts on that?
Nah.
Don't like it?
Oh, well, nah, because then it's like the halves now. Like you'd be coaching halves now or centres that go, what position do you play, mate? Oh, right centre. Great. I've got a right centre. So you can't play left centre. You can't play left wing. I don't ask girls where they play. Like I've got my wingers that are starting this weekend. They've come down to me. One started in the back row. The other one, we didn't even, I said, what wing do you play? She goes, oh, I just play wing. I said, great.
Yeah, okay.
Why limit someone? Yeah, it was one of the other things with Huey. Like, why are you going to say you're a right-sided half? I won a comp on. It defies logic that a left foot kicker would win a competition playing on the right-hand side of the field when I'm left-handed. By the way,
that's fair. Yeah,
but you look at some of the tries we scored that year. Long pass over the top to Dell in 09. Long pass, because I'm left-handed.
Yeah.
I'd worked hard at that side. That side was always going to be easy, but I'd worked harder on that. And you don't see the big cutout passes. Like they call it the Harbour Bridge pass now. You know what? It's actually not a good pass if it's a Harbour Bridge pass. All right? In touch, if it's a good pass. I used to watch Joe Williams step, snap, 30 metres, probably that high. That's a great pass. The Harbour Bridge pass now is because wingers are so tall.
Yeah.
But everyone acts like, oh, it's a great pass. It's like, it's been happening for 10 or 15 years. You got to go back and look at it.
You're a pretty handy touch player, weren't you?
Yeah, played for Australia. Played against the Cook Islands in 2002. Loved it. If I'm any young up and coming female, male that wants to play NRLW, go and play touch. And the proof's in the pudding.
If you could have played, the same career you did with, money, et cetera, as toucher and as an NRL player, what did you prefer to play?
I grew up playing touch because I love the skill of it.
Yep.
And the manipulation of how to get people. And my best mates are all touchies.
Yep.
And that was a tight bond coming from Wagga. But, I mean, the NRL, when you play Origin and you debut at Suncorp and you've watched all the old Winfield classic VHSs of Lewis, Kenny, all those guys and all that history, and I got a chance to debut at Suncorp, ain't happening in touch.
Yeah.
So, that's league for me. Like, it was always going to be league, but touch was I played in the off season to hone my skills and my passing, and if I didn't have a shit back, I'd be still playing touch.
We were out at Parramatta Stadium a few weeks ago, and Parramatta had the 81, 82, 83 sides there. And like I've obviously spent a lot of time now in studio talking to players and whatnot, but mate, when I saw Brett Kenny, I still myself just went, I don't even know what I'd say to this guy.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I'd say. Whereas I think the vast majority of players now, a lot of them could walk past Brett Kenny and not realise who he was.
Well, Dallin, DWZ, at a trial in 14, we played out at Camden, I think it was. I was talking to Mick Potter. And Dallin comes up to me and goes...
How underrated is Mick Potter as a footballer?
Dallin comes up to me and goes, who's that? And I said, mate. So get away from me right now.
Two Dally M's at two clubs?
Two Dally M's at two clubs. One of the first people to wear the torpedoes, I think. But just a gun centre, fullback, But it's funny. Cliffy Lyons came into All-Stars camp that first year with JT and that. Gun euchre player. Won't play unless your money's on the table, but gun euchre player. And I got a chance to pair up with him. And I seen him at a State Cup a couple of years later, and they're about to tip off for the final. And I just yelled out, hey, Unc, like that. And he come running over. And like I was nervous, but I was sort of trying to show off a bit. I had my father-in-law with me. Yeah. And he goes, oh, there's Cliffy Lyons. I said, oh, say hello to him. Hey, Unc, how you going? Like that. He brings the ball over to the fence. He goes, hey, cuz, how you going? What have you been up to? How'd you go? I said, oh, we got knocked out. He goes, yeah. All right, what else has been happening? Like he's talking. The siren goes to tap off. No one says a thing. They just wait. He goes, oh, I better go out there. I've got to win this game like that. So he goes out, runs out, taps off. And then it was just like, I love being able to do that. We did the same Eric Growth Senior at the casino with my father-in-law.
The OG guru.
Yeah, the OG.
Real guru.
The real guru. And I just sort of said, g'day, mate. And that's what I love about probably the old school guys is you're a part of that fraternity now. You're a part of that. They might not have liked your style, but I think the overall respect of what we have, okay, well, you played first grade. That's hard to do. And I love the fact that that I still get giddy over that stuff.
It's special.
It is. It's cool.
Yeah. Goal kicks, if you had to pick like 3 in your career that stand out to you.
Penrith to send us to goal. Then I kick a field goal in Roosters, 14. Everyone says, oh, mad field goal. I said, no, the biggest kick was the goal from the sideline because otherwise without that, we're chasing another try. Yeah. 2011, semi-final against the Broncos to send us into Golden Point. And
that was the night. Was that the night that
Lockie broke his cheekbone? Yeah. Which is why, because we felt like we had the style to play Manly pretty good.
Yeah.
And then the other one was, I'd say probably that Melbourne one. I never won in Melbourne my whole career.
You never won down there?
Never. But that kick to send us to Golden Point in 2009 was pretty big.
I often, when I think about your Dragon side, I always think that 2009 sort of the one that got away.
Nah.
You seem to put a lot more emphasis on the 11.
Yeah, well, '09, I remember going to sleep like a month earlier. I've told Maddie this story. He's like, we're going to be a premiership winner. Like, no one was coming close to us. I knew that it was going to be tough, but I was like, this is happening. This is really cool. It's happening fast. First year Wayne. You know, I'd played pretty good that year. I think I finished high up in the Dally M's.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, we beat Para 37-0. BMO scores a hat-trick, gets the try-scoring trophy. Party time. Oh, shit, we're on a plane to Brisbane. Oh, shit, we're at a bar at Dapto. Sinking piss. 10, we were motivated. 11, Origin. Yeah, just cruelled us. It's just you're a different beast out of Origin. That's why a lot of conjecture around when Origin should be. Just have a 3-week break. Bang, bang, bang. You've got enough rep teams and you can play 17s, 19s, reserve grade, men's, women's. Have our women's season at the start of the year and have the Origin time at the end of the year. Like, the players go through so much during Origin that it hurts you. I nearly got dropped out of Origin. Yeah, we lost 4 in a row and Wayne just said, I think 3 in a row, and Wayne just said, mate, you dropped this week. I was like, mate, I played Origin last month. He's like, nah, you're not you. Yeah, you look tired. I went home, cried, and come back the next day and told him. He said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm playing. He goes, no, you're not. I said, I'm playing, mate. He goes, all right, good. He smiled and, yeah. It's hard, man. You're in camp. It's a different beast. You're emotionally. If you win I didn't win the series, but we lost the series, and that was when Queensland were on a streak. So, and I think the footy suffers for it on the weekend. I don't know if you agree, but...
I'll tell you who does agree. Big boy down there. No one's more vocal about it than the water boy.
Yeah, and the other part of it is, like, what reward do the teams up the top get for the start to the season when they have to play a team that's down the bottom without their players? There's no reward for it. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense. And plus, now, at the Dragons, we had our bye round 1, mate. There's still... Cowboys have still got another bye. Broncos have got another bye in 2 weeks. So they get a little freshen up right before the finals.
I said it in the preseason.
Doesn't make sense.
The NRL better keep track of who has that round 1 fucking bye. If you guys ever go near a round 1 bye again...
For 17 years.
Bullshit.
For 17
Yeah, for 17 years, yes. It should be... I mean? Dragons should not get that. I think next year the Dragons should almost get to choose where their fucking bye is.
Or just reverse it.
Yeah.
Say that everyone's going to have one...
Round 1 bye is one of the biggest kicks in the dick imaginable.
Or everyone's going to have 3 weeks off during Origin.
Yeah.
Then teams can plan for it, Matty. Teams can plan for out of Origin to rest their guys if they need to, but they probably only need to rest them maybe a week or 2 weeks, or they give them a game. Like, it's just, yeah.
Whilst we're on Origin, mate, one of my favourite moments of your career, and, I remember throughout your career people often criticise you for not running enough.
Yeah.
Fuck, I loved when you came off that left foot, off the scrum there. It's one of my favourite moments in footy. I fucking loved it. And find Minnie there to score. Unbelievable stuff. Run me through that moment.
Shit kick 30 seconds before that.
Yeah.
I think Chocky Uate bats the ball back and GI knocks it on. Otherwise, there was heartbreak the other way.
Yeah.
We'll probably be trailing 14-12. But we got lucky. And then I just remember Junior, I just wanted the ball and I was just going to run it. And I just saw wide. I think it might have even been Thaiday coming across Lockie and Slater. And I knew Slater was going to break hard. So Junior, beautiful pass. Like, go back and watch the pass. Again, some of my biggest moments have been because of the skill before it. And I just remember taking off. And once I got past the first one, I sort of thought, I'm on. And then looking back, and my mate says, why didn't you score? I said, mate, it's not about the percentage play was to find Minnie there.
Yeah.
And Minnie scored. Like, I celebrated like I scored. Again, it's back to that win. It's nice to be able to do your job and win. You don't have to be the headline.
I'd watched probably every single game you'd play from first grade to that point, and a lot of your reserve grade games. I did not expect you to run in that moment, if I'm being honest. Like, it took me by surprise.
Yeah, and I don't think, like everyone says, you should have run more and all that, and you're like, yeah, okay, but there's a lot of things that going on out there A lot of guys want to run.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of guys. But in that moment, I probably needed to run and took it, which is good.
Your kids are a little bit older in a few years' time. They can sort of understand your career, what you achieved and everything. What will be the crowning moment to tell them about for you?
When they were born.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they were born, when I married their mother. I love the fact that I play the game. The game continues to give me so much, and I think I respect it to that point. But, we lost the grand final last year against the Roosters, and for a week, Indiana reminded me that we lost the grand final, and I didn't care.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew that I'd won. Like, those girls, they love dressing up as dragons. They love the fact that Daddy's the coach. I love the fact that I get to share with Dragons fans the premiership. That's really cool. And I think when they're a little bit older, they'll realise that when they go down to that museum at Cogra, that Daddy was a good player. But right now we went to Disney on Ice the other day, mate, and I had spent the whole hour watching Indiana, watching her enjoy that moment. And like, we're old school. My wife tapes everything. I do like one post, and then I'll just watch them. So I do wait for the day where they walk into Cogra Leagues Club and I walk in with them, because they're starting to get a little bit old. Like, who's that guy, Daddy? How do you know that guy, Daddy? And I go, no, I don't, baby. It's just, yeah. But no, the day that, it all started, marrying Maddie, and I don't know if I've got footy players though, mate. I've got, Indiana's probably going to be a dancer or a performer. Ivy's definitely a footy player. She's rough as guts, mate. She's already missing a tooth. She just wants to fight everyone. So, yeah.
I think one of my favourite quotes from you, and probably a good spot to finish up, I'm not sure when it was, I read it a few years ago and it stood out to me, was, I think you said something along the lines of, having your two girls, it's fantastic just to have people that love you, not for kicking.
Yeah.
Not for premierships, not for any of that sort of shit. And for me, I think it showed how far you've come as a person.
Yeah. And like I said, in 15 and whatever, probably throughout my career, there'd be stages where ego and certain things I'd done and the way I'd acted was not me. But this is the person I was before I came to Sydney. Those girls, they don't care if I win or lose. They love Daddy for Daddy. They want to play footy at home and wrestle and paint nails and do all that stuff. So, mate, this has been really cool. Thanks for having me.
Been great. And I probably have to apologise to Maddie, because 10-year-old me's been waiting for this interview for almost 20 years and I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. Mate, shoot.
No. I was happy. I didn't want to ruin the flow. That was I
forgot he was here, actually.
Seriously, I felt like I was just on Spotify listening to myself. So, no, that was fantastic. Fantastic. I'm
going to finish off with a little bit of trivia for you.
Yeah.
Throughout your career when you were playing halfback, you had 14 different 5'8s. How many can you name?
Okay. Craig Wing. When I was playing halfback, Craig Wing, Josh Lewis, Will Smith, Bryce Cartwright. When I was playing halfback. 14.
There's a couple of rogues in here.
NRL.
Yeah.
Oh, Rangy Chase.
Rangy Chase, yeah.
Yeah. How many's that?
5.
Oh, shit.
Got a long way to go.
Give us a hint on one of them, a couple of them.
One of them...
They wouldn't have been long
A lot of them are very short stints. One of them was a centre we've spoken about a lot today.
Oh, Gaz.
Gaz was one. One was your halfback when you won the premiership.
Yeah, Benny Hornby.
Benny Hornby was one. Did you say Tyrone Peachy?
No. The Peach. Still to this day the most gifted natural rugby league player that I've ever played with.
Said before on the show, the first time I ever saw him was when he was playing for Cronulla. Do you remember that year where Cronulla's reserve grade was mixed with Melbourne?
Yeah.
The blue strip with the purple down the side. I saw him make a line break where he went through, he tripped, he somersaulted and just came out of it and just kept going. I just went, what the fuck was that?
Yeah. And he used to wear the big sternum guard.
And someone said, last name's Peach. I went, of course it is.
Okay. Yep.
That makes complete sense now. I'm
Yep.
surprised he didn't do 2 somersaults.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Who were the others?
So, Craig Wing,
I had Wingy at the start.
Braithen, I'm just going through the list.
Braithen
Wing,
Astor.
Braithen Astor.
Can I just say, Braithen Astor, the way that he's presenting and the way that he speaks is really refreshing to me.
Killing it.
Absolutely love Braithen Astor.
Yeah. If
What he's
you,
doing.
a lot of people didn't like Braith throughout his career, and maybe when he was commentating, didn't like him, but mate, the way that he's handling himself on that show is unbelievable.
Yeah, I had a chance to chat to him. Yeah, I wanted to catch up with him just for some life stuff, really. But he's just, yeah, like I just love the fact I could sit and listen to him analyse. Like when he's on Super Saturday and that, it's cool. Or Super Sunday, sorry, whatever they call it. Yeah, he's really cool.
He's done very well for
Yeah.
Braith. Yeah, I've got a lot of
So
respect for him.
BA, there'd be a couple of obscure ones here.
Josh Lewis,
Yeah.
Rangi Chase, you
Yeah,
said
got
him.
Rangi, yeah.
Richie Williams.
Don't think that ever happened.
Really? Ooh.
Richie left the club when I got there in 07.
Okay, I've got these stats from NRL Odd Stats, one of the boys on Instagram, so I'll have to check that one up.
Well, we never played together.
No?
Nah, because when I got there, that was his last game in first grade.
Maybe 13 then. Mark Gasnier,
Yep.
Ben Hornby,
Yep.
Peachy,
Yep.
Cartwright, Will Smith.
Yep.
I think the last 4, you didn't mention any of them. Appy,
Coruscant.
Yep.
Yep.
Isaac John.
Oh, Ice. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Tomato Martin.
Oh, I'm thinking. Yeah. Well, I didn't think of anything at the back end of Penrith.
Oh, and of course, who's the last one then?
Well, Nathan Cleary,
Yeah.
but he was a 7.
Well, I would say that in these games, it was when you
I
wore
the
7 and
7,
he
yeah.
wore 6 would
Yeah.
be what it was.
Yeah. Well,
That's,
Tomato. That's those last 4. I mean, Ice was. Yeah, I think he was underrated in what he was a fantastic ball runner.
Yeah.
I think our styles suited each other, but obviously me and Wall were in the halves. Tomato, yeah, just a gun.
Who was the one you said?
Hold up. So apparently round 13 and 14, 2007, you played with Richie
Richie?
Williams. Yep. 2 games.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't remember. Sorry, Richie. Sorry, Cuz.
Fuck, he could play too.
Yeah, he.
So talented.
The last thing about Richie was when he bagged BA, in that Anzac Day.
Yeah.
Just come out and bagged him, and the Roosters just ran riot.
I remember seeing him over in England. He set up a try where he turned a guy under and he flicked it around his back and caught it there, and then just
Well, that was Rangi. Rangi Chase was a gun like that too.
Yeah.
He was. Yeah.
2 very talented
good,
footballers there.
Cardi, how good's Cardi going at the moment?
Well, saying on Monday, like Brad Arthur's got to get so much credit for what he's like. You think about all the back rowers he's brought in over the years between
Sean
Cartwright, mate. Sean Lane couldn't get in that team originally because Andrew Davey was killing it.
Yeah.
And he brought Isaiah Papali'i.
Yep.
Mate, everyone he has brought there as a back rower has been incredible.
I think BA doesn't get the credit because they've got those guys, those high-paid guys, and they haven't won yet.
Yeah.
But he's to the rugby league nuts. It's like you're doing a lot of good things.
He walked in there and they were cheating and getting the wooden spoon.
Yeah.
Like, he walked into an absolute fucking disaster.
Yeah.
In the midst of that, lost Michael Jennings, had a lot of things go against him. And it's hard, isn't it brutal in rugby league? Like, sometimes you get less criticism if you're 9th to 12th than you do if you're 1 to 6, but if you're not winning a comp.
Yeah. Well, you've started us up again. We'll be here all day.
That's bizarre. Mate, we thank you very much for coming in. I've got a sneaking suspicion it probably won't be the last time. I think we'll drag you in again at some point.
Thanks,
NRLW season just around the corner.
Yeah, this week. It's
Play Saturday?
Yeah, played nights Saturday, premiership winners from last year. I'm really excited. I think, like, from my first year to this year, I'm so much more prepared.
Yeah.
And I understand, like, I'm a lunatic in the box. Like, I'm absolute lunatic. But I've learned when not to waste energy in that as well. But I'm always going to ride the highs and lows. That's just who I am. And I said that, not to sort of waffle on, but, people that criticise me or don't like my coaching style, when I got the job, my wife said, if you do it, this is her advice, if you do it your way. Because I was like, oh, what if the girls don't like me swearing? What if the girls don't? She said, well, don't do it then. So if you do it your way. And I've had to temper some of that, surely. But do it your way, and I've done it that way.
I love the way, mate. The thing that stood out from talking to you today and talking to you pre-game, we had a coffee, that you're not looking at the NRLW coaching job as a stepping stone to NRL.
Yeah.
You're all fucking in on this.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and you asked about my girls. They wouldn't care where I'm coaching, but I care about the girls' game. I want to grow the women's game to the point where it is on mainstream every year and they're getting paid what they want. But to do that, I've got to be all in. I can't be seeing this as a job interview for somewhere else, which is why I want to dominate the space. And it might look differently, in a couple of years if I don't get success, and I might be out of my ass, but I'm going to try my hardest to go for it all while I'm here.
Mate, I wish you all the very best with it. Thank you for coming in today.
Thanks, bud.
Unreal chat, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, brother. Cheers.
That was great. Sorry, mate.